come on board. I don't care how rich you are. You're taking your shoes off. Like I said, I hate being told what to do. Terrible boyfriend, terrible business partner. I'm only going to be this young right now. Like once. That's it. I'm never going to be this young again.
These are my favorite type of interviews when we're just in my flat, chilling.
Nice.
Okay, so Laura Proudfoot.
Hello. You
have a really cool surname.
Yeah, it's Scottish. Everyone thinks it's native, but it's very Scottish.
Got it. We have been living together for a month while you've had your time off the super yacht where you usually live.
Yes, my world traveling super yacht. This month has flown by though. It's been too quick.
And yeah, so I guess by way of introduction, you are head of housekeeping on a super yacht.
Yes, currently the head of housekeeping on a 100-meter super yacht.
I thought it was 110 meters.
Yeah, plus or minus, like 112 if you're being specific, I think, okay. But like
a very big yacht. And you've worked on various yachts for various billionaire families.
Yes, and millionaires, and billionaires.
Okay, great. And you're from Canada.
What else?
Anything else you want to say in your introduction before we go into how you grew up?
I mean, I guess that's a pretty good summary of who I am at the moment.
Yeah. Great. And you love rollerblading and salsa dancing.
Roller skating, okay, there's a difference.
Oh,
the quads, it's a little more old school.
Okay, roller skating.
It's a little cool. It's more cool. I don't know.
All right, let's get into how you grew up.
Okay. So I grew up in Canada.
Whereabouts?
What about my life? Just outside of Ottawa on the Quebec side. English was my first language and I did go to an English school. Actually, my mom tried to put me into a French school when I was younger, but I would come home crying every day because the teachers wouldn't let anyone speak to me in English. And so my mom felt really bad. And so she kept me out, put me in an English school, and then I think it traumatized me, and I never wanted to learn French after that. Wow! So my French should be better than it is. I can speak French a little bit, but yeah.
So your parents aren't French Canadian?
No, English. Yeah, just Elmer or Quebec. Ottawa's right on the border of Quebec and Ontario, so it's just cheaper to live on the Quebec side and then work and stuff in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, sorry. I always do this thing on this podcast where I'm like, oh yeah, I've been there. And it's like, no one cares to. But I've been to Ottawa, and I went to Ottawa because I had to change visas from when I was living in New York. So I had to like cross the border. Random. Yeah, and cross back in. So went to Ottawa and loved it. So beautiful there. Yeah, like everyone talks it down.
Well, no, it's definitely beautiful if you love like outdoors sports and like cycling and everyone there is really active. I feel like it's a nice city, but it's very flat. It's just, if you're going to go visit Canada, I'd recommend going to Vancouver or Calgary where you can go see the mountains or like the ocean, and Ottawa's just kind of in the middle. Yeah.
But and then I've also been to Vancouver, Calgary.
No, that's where I'd recommend. Yeah,
and then I've been to Montreal, which is so funny how French it is that it's like you can't see a film in English. You can't there's all the laws to protect the French language. So
but Montreal is probably the most English part of Quebec, though.
Oh no, wait, sorry, not Montreal.
Quebec City.
Quebec City, yes.
Yeah. Quebec City is very, very French.
Yeah.
It's like it's just like stepping into Europe when you're over there.
Like you can't go to a yoga class in English or...
Yeah, no, probably not.
Okay, so but your town was not like that.
No, well, because it was right on the border, there were so many English people living there, but it's very French. That's why I can speak French, because everybody speaks French there and I can understand it. But yeah.
And where are your parents from?
They're both Canadian. They grew up in smaller towns, I suppose. My mom grew up in the same town as Shania Twain. I don't think she's ever met her, but that's her, like, little tiny town called Timmins.
Where is that?
Timmins, Ontario. It's North Ontario, so it's about a 10-hour drive from Ottawa, north. And then you're still not even, like, you could still keep going. That's how big Canada is, right? You drive 10 hours here, you're going to, like, end up in the ocean. Like,
yeah. Okay. And then what was growing up like for you?
Yeah, well, so I have a sister. I feel like when I think back on my childhood, it was very uneventful. My parents split up when I was younger, when I was 8. And then my dad moved just around the corner from us, basically, like 2 streets over. And we used to, we used to split the time. So I would be like Monday, Tuesday at my mom's place, Wednesday, Thursday at my dad's place, and then every other weekend we'd switch. And that was super hectic. And then it switched to be like every week, and then every 2 weeks. And then we'd spend a month at each place and then go back. And then me and my sister started fighting. So I'd spend a month with my dad. My sister would spend a month with my mom. And then we'd switch. So we were always never living together. It was kind of, I don't know. When I was younger, I thought it was great because I was like, oh, I have 2 homes. I don't have to choose, I guess.
Huh.
It was interesting.
And did your parents get on still?
For the most part. I mean, like, they fought a lot when I was younger. That's why they broke up. But I think they did a good job of, like, amicably sharing, I suppose. I mean, yeah.
How big was the town you grew up in?
It wasn't that big, but it was next to Ottawa. So, like, yeah, Elmer itself is the town I grew up in, is maybe 10,000 people or 15,000 maybe. But, like, you're a 20-minute drive from Ottawa, which is the capital, which, again, still doesn't mean that there was that many. I think there's today maybe 1 million people in the entire surrounding area. So it's not, like, a huge city, but, yeah. I went to high school. You want to know what high school was like? Or
Sure.
Well, my childhood growing up, yes. High school was interesting because I never felt like I fit in anywhere. So I was always like, I wasn't cool enough to be with the cool kids, and I wasn't like nerdy enough to be with the nerd kids or whatever. So I ended up my teenage years. Yeah, I was very like rebellious and
what rebellious things did you
So I would just like hang out in the corner with the kids that were smoking and like drinking and doing drugs and things like that. So as a teenager, I ended up between the ages of 13 and 17, I was like a bad kid.
What kind of drugs?
Ecstasy and cocaine.
Really?
Really, I know.
From what age?
Probably not 13. No, probably when I was like 15, 16. Like, I dabbled in that kind of stuff.
At bars or clubs? Or
just like house parties, probably. Like, that was the thing to do when you were a teenager. Like I said, it is a small kind of town. And I fell in, like I said, I fell in with these kind of like outcast kids that were just like, up to no good all the time.
Same age as you?
Yeah, people that were in my grade or
girls and boys.
Yeah, girls and boys.
And just having parties when parents were away.
Yeah, I mean, I think the drinking age. Well, no, wait, the drinking age here is 18 as well, right? Yeah, I mean, the drinking age was 18 there, so it was just a common thing to do, I guess, as a teenager.
Yeah, Yeah, okay, interesting. Because I guess that is like a different level. It's like a lot of people drinking, sneaking off to go to parties and drinking, but
yeah,
cocaine.
No, I mean, yeah, it's that was 1 year when I was 17, I think 16, 17. Yeah, I guess I am kind of glossing over a lot of like, just like, oh yeah, my childhood was great. But clearly like there was still like something going on because, I ran away at one point when I was like 14, 15.
Where did you go?
To Kingston. a friend of mine that Kingston is about 2 hours outside of Ottawa. So we hitchhiked all the way to Kingston, but that's where her family's from. So we got caught by her mom.
Where were you going?
I don't know what our plan was, really. We were just trying to go away.
Was it like, I hate you, Mom, like, I'm leaving?
Gosh, like, I almost forgot that I did this when I was younger. Did you ever see the movie 13? It was like, I don't know, it's like an indie film with Evan Rachel Wood.
I don't even know who that is.
You don't know who she is? She's a really good actress. She's in, what is she? Oh my God, now I can't even remember what she's in right now. Anyway, that movie was about these like two teenagers who were just, like rebellious, and they were living, I don't know, and the movie took place in LA or something, but they were like doing drugs and like, sleeping around with boys and doing all kinds of things. Anyway, so I think that wasn't why, but it was like, that was the kind of, I could compare my teenage years to that movie a little bit, basically.
Were you having fun, or was it like...
I thought we were having fun, yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't like you were really emotional and unhappy and like, fuck you, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was definitely like, I used to cut myself as well when I was a teenager. So there must have been, I don't know, when I look back on it now, I just remember it being just, it was very emotional and very like, depressed is like not really the right word. It was just more like, you're a teenager, you're trying to figure things out. There's like a lot of hormones. You're just like, there's like, everything feels out of your control. And I just knew that like I wanted to go somewhere or do something. And I felt like, my parents were trying to tell me what to do. I've always like hated being told what to do.
But that's so interesting now, because you work for like billionaires, kind of having to do something very specific for...
And I hate it. I hate it. I was and I had my own business before, right? So, and I know that's like definitely the direction I'm going to go back into. But that's my struggle mostly at work, is that I don't deal well with authority. I mean, it's one thing when I'm doing like the service for the guests, right? Because it's okay. They're asking me to do something for them, right?
And you're being paid to provide a service.
And I'm being paid well to provide that service. And then, so that's a little bit different. So the people, I don't really have an issue with them being like the authority. It's more like my immediate bosses.
Yeah, because you work in a strict hierarchy.
Like
the captain, the purser.
Yeah, the chief stew, then me. Yeah.
No wearing shoes on the silk carpets and all of that.
Yeah. Well, we have indoor shoes we can wear during trips, but yeah, no. Guests can. Yeah, you come on board. I don't care how rich you are. You're taking your shoes off at the door.
Okay. Interesting. So because you're such a happy, like bubbly person. So were you like that as a teenager, and then also dealing with all this?
Do you know what? Actually, so yes. Wow. I'm just like remembering so many things now. So yeah, I remember as a teenager, I always felt like I never really fit in. I was always struggling a little bit, hanging out with these people, doing drugs, all this kind of stuff. Then there was one year, was like my second last year of high school, I guess. There was and I was never super outgoing at this point. Never really confident. Like I would smile with my mouth closed, like if that makes sense. I didn't know how to like actually smile. Anyway, there was a girl who transferred from a school from Winnipeg, and she joined our class that year, and she sat next to me in math class, and she obviously didn't know anybody, but then we became really good friends. And she was so cool, right? Like she was outgoing, beautiful, like she got along with everybody. She was like the most popular girl. And then obviously she was like a transfer student, so she was really, exotic or whatever. but yeah, we became really, really good friends. And then like she kind of taught me how to be confident, if that makes sense. I could probably attribute a lot of my outgoingness and confidence to her. Like she taught me how to laugh, if that makes sense. Like, you know, she had this big belly laugh. Like she would just like, and I would say like that's when I started smiling with like, you know, my teeth.
Wow.
I definitely remember that was like a huge turning point. We still did drugs and drank a lot as a teenager, but we did it in a more like, I don't know. She taught me a little bit more about style. Like I cut my hair short, I think, at that point, and like, you know, I mean, oh my God, if you look at the photos now, it's so dated, but we were so cool.
That's so funny because you laugh all the time.
Yeah, and I would say that's like I try to be really funny. I think I'm funny. Especially the more I get to know somebody, the funnier I guess I can be. And then I use humor a lot though to like, I think, not deflect, but like make light of situations, and not make light of them, but I think not that it's like I'm trying to like gloss over anything, but it's just, I don't know, you have to laugh. I guess, I don't know, to deal with things. Life, yeah, exactly.
Okay, got it. So were you confident, would you say?
Am I?
Were you as a teenager?
Okay, so after I met her, yes. Before that, not really. I don't think so. I like in junior high, I had braces and acne, and I think my mom let me dye my hair red at one point. So it was just like, you know, I didn't wear any makeup because my mom wouldn't let me. And then, except she let me buy like one lipstick from MAC, like a red lipstick, and so it's just like red.
Okay.
And then I don't know, and then I just grew up and started, I don't know, grew out of that phase, got my braces off.
And was it at this point you got into spirituality?
Oh, well, no, I mean, I've always kind of been interested. I don't know when, like how old I was when it started, but throughout this whole thing, like I had like a goth phase at some point when I was like 13, right? Where I, you know, dressed all in black and thought that, you know, I was a witch, literally. But I've always been interested in that kind of thing. When I was young, I'll tell you when I was, this is how I found out Santa didn't exist. So, I think I was probably like 11, like 10 or 11, really late, I think, for finding out Santa doesn't exist. And I had written a letter to Santa asking for magical powers. Like I think I had started reading Harry Potter around that time. So it was like, I really wanted real magical powers. And I remember getting a letter back from Santa and explaining how he can't give everybody magical powers because then it wouldn't be special or something, blah, blah, blah. And then like the next year I was,
which was your mom?
It was my dad. So I was on the computer, our family desktop thing that was in the kitchen, and looking for a file of mine. And so I typed in my name because I thought that's how I would find my file. And then it said, "Dear Laura." And I opened up the document and it was the letter I had received from Santa the year before. And I was like, what is this doing on my dad's computer?
Wow. But somehow you believed you did have magical powers.
Like, I just always knew that there was, like, if you could, like, if you concentrate on something long enough, like, if you can kind of will, like, you can't create something out of nothing, right? Like, I can't just, like, make something move across the room, but, like, I always felt this energy, I always felt this power that you could kind of, like, tap into, you know? And I think, yeah. I don't know, that's the best way I can describe it, I suppose, but yeah. And so when I was younger, I kind of stumbled. I was into the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and, like, you know, there's, like, witchcraft in there, and I'm trying to think of other shows and stuff, but so I heard about, like, Wicca, and so I would research that, because this is, like, when computers were a thing now, right? So I could Google. Well, I could ask Jeeves a lot of things. Do you remember Ask Jeeves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does Wicca mean?
Wicca is a type of, it's just like, oh God, I hope there's no Wiccans listening because I'm going to butcher, like, the definition of this, I guess. It's just people who are they believe in like the spirituality. It's like of the like herbs and like the natural world, and like all of these things have properties, and you can kind of create spells. You can light a candle if you do a certain ritual in a certain way. You call it like a spell, and you can create like like a love spell or like a money spell or like whatever it is.
Okay, is this like Charmed? That TV show?
Sure, yeah. It could be like Charmed, yeah. I remember watching that when I was younger as well. But I think what it is, it's like all it really boils down to now is all of these tools, all of these herbs, all of these rituals, it's just setting your intention, right? And by setting this intention, you're putting this energy out into the universe. And like you understand about manifestation, right? And it's not going to create something out of nothing. You still have to do the work, but and I think scientifically, yeah, not that I'm a scientist, but by making yourself focus on these things, you are more aware of opportunities as they come back to you, right? You're more aware of how you're going to behave. You're going to behave and act in different ways if you're concentrating on a certain kind of goal, right? You can't expect things to happen exactly the way you want it to happen. Like, I want $1 million in my bank account tomorrow. Like, it doesn't happen like that. But by focusing your attention on something, you change your behavior, and you notice other behaviors in other people, and you notice other things that'll, kind of work to your benefit, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, but it's nice to have it. I mean, clearly there's energy in nature, right? Like these plants are alive, right? That's why, like, it's proven that they grow better when they're spoken to, right? You should play them some music. Some classical music, I think that helps as well. Delia's plants are dying.
No, they're not dying. We just moved one to a different position. But the idea of like stroking their leaves or whatever. But it's just like attention. It's like a living thing. Yeah,
there is. Like, there's properties and energy in living in nature, and
that would be interesting to see the data on speaking to them. But okay, anyway.
I can't pull that survey up off the top of my head, but I definitely remember reading it.
But some of these things you can just feel, and like there's no explanation. Yeah, I mean, I just love going into the park and like being in the bushes, and
that's how I felt when I went to Nicaragua. I love being in the jungle. There's something about being surrounded by trees and nature that just is so calming and energetic. You can feel it. It's hard to put into words, but you can feel it
for sure. Yeah. And if you need help feeling it, it's like you can take psychedelics which help you feel it better. Sure. And then I feel like that connection. I need more experience with establishes that connection.
I've been too scared to do psychedelics. I've never done LSD. I've tried mushrooms once, but I never took enough to like actually hallucinate. And then, what is the other one? I don't know.
Because basically I don't think I felt that connection with nature until having done psychedelics in nature. And now it's like, oh my God. Like, I love trees.
So I went to Peru last year. Was it a year ago? And we did a San Pedro ceremony. And I didn't have like some crazy revelation or anything, but I remember, walking into this clearing.
Like you had ayahuasca.
It wasn't ayahuasca, it was San Pedro, which is peyote, like another word for peyote. It was similar, but not as intense. And it's not really, I guess it's not really supposed to be psychedelic, but I just remember it going into this clearing and having this overwhelming sense that all of the trees, like everything in this area was waiting for us. Like they knew we were coming and they were welcoming us. And I sat down and I stared at this waterfall and tree for like 6 hours without even once contemplating about what time it was or like thinking about, which was amazing. It was, because I that's probably my biggest thing is I'm always thinking about like the future or the past or whatever. And in that moment I was just staring at this waterfall. That's all that mattered.
Okay, so at school, did you have a sense of what you wanted to do afterwards? Like, were you worried Were you friends with your sister during this time? Or like, how did your family kind of respond to you being a goth or like being a outsider? Or
I mean, my mom tried to help me for sure. I think she tried to put me in therapy when I was younger, but I didn't want to go, obviously, and therapy wasn't as like accepted as it is now, and it was just I don't know, I just didn't work. And then
was that because of the self-harm?
Yeah, that's probably why she wanted to get me in there. I mean, fair enough. And honestly, I don't know what made me stop doing it. Like, I haven't done it since I was, I think I did it once when I was 20, and then, so it's been like 12 years now since I've done it. And I don't really know why I started or why I stopped. I really don't. Couldn't give you a straight answer. But I think it probably had something to do with like just feeling like not out of control, but like not having control. So it was just something that I could do.
And it was like a release.
Yeah, I don't know. And there must have been some sort of endorphin properties to it, I'm sure. But I think like if I were to analyze it, I think it was something to do like, you know, feeling all of these emotions that I couldn't control, but then like this was a way for me to control pain I was feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I had to analyze myself.
I'm just thinking because I'm just gonna look up what episode it was where we talked about self-harm for anyone who is like wants to understand it better or
should we plug in some phone numbers right now? 1-800, like, there's a future, don't kill yourself, please.
But yours wasn't like that. Okay, so it's episode 12, Gary Halai, which we're talking about suicide and self-harm prevention, because I didn't know a lot about he's from the crisis text line I worked at, which is Shout, which people can message if they're struggling with these things.
Do it.
But I didn't understand that self-harm, because I've lost my brother to suicide, I've dealt with depression, which is more like feeling like very dark thoughts about not wanting to live. But I didn't realize self-harm. Actually, and there's been someone else who's come on, Gareth, as well. It's like who's talked about self-harm. But that self-harm is different. Well, I don't know what it was for you, but they're both explaining how self-harm in many cases, and that was in my training, that it's like, it's not to do with wanting to end your life or wanting to like cause like harm. It's more like it's more similar, I guess, to like an eating disorder, some kind of control. Or like there's a lot of pain going on. And often it's like, it's really interesting how many people it's to do with, or how many people their parents have got divorced during their childhood, and then it's like an eating disorder or self-harm or some kind of. But so I don't know if yours was more like that, like there's just so many emotions and you're just trying to deal with it, versus like, I'm so unhappy and I can't.
I don't remember ever feeling suicidal at any point, really. Like I definitely remember feeling like I don't think I can handle any of these emotions anymore, but like never in a I don't think it was ever about wanting to end my life. Yeah. But what was the other question you were asking about my sister? Or?
Yeah, did you get in with your sister during this time?
No, me and my sister always fought. Always. She's just under 2 years younger than me, and she would always steal my clothes. And then it was so annoying because she would go into my room, steal my clothes. I'd go into her room, take my clothes back, and then she'd get mad that I went into her room without her permission. And then she'd go back into my room and steal more of my clothes out of retaliation. And it was a big circle. Anyway. No, and then my sister was always, she, as far as I know, she didn't do anything crazy as a teenager. And then I think she had a little bit of an emo phase. Like like the look though, like it wasn't like a goth phase. It was like, do you remember the emo hairstyle, like with the like shaggy bangs?
Yeah, the side fringe.
Yeah.
Avril Lavigne style. She's Canadian, isn't she?
She's very Canadian. Yeah.
Wow, so many Canadians. Okay. So then what did you do after school, or what?
Yeah. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then so in Quebec we go up to grade 11, not grade 12. I don't know how that translates into Australian or UK, but normally you have like 12 years of high school. We go up to grade 11, and then you do 2 years of cégep, which is I think in Quebec, or sorry, in the UK it's kind of like your A levels. Anyways, so because I graduated, we only got up to grade 11. I started school at 4 instead of 5. So I graduated high school when I was 16 years old because my birthday's late in the year and like everything. So yeah, I was 16 when I graduated high school, and I have no idea what I wanted to do, obviously. And I had gotten a job as a hostess at this, like, for lack of a better word, restaurant. It was like, do you have your Rich Tree? It's like a market restaurant. Anyway.
What is a market restaurant?
It's kind of like a buffet restaurant where you kind of go, there's different stations and they're like cooking food. And anyway, I was a hostess, and then I worked at the bakery counter, which was hectic because it was in this mall. And then, but I got to leave work every day with bags full of muffins. Anyways. But yeah, so I was doing that, and then my dad got a transfer with his job to Toronto. And this is one of the things when I'm like, I believe in the secret. I believe in manifestation, because I had willed, like, I wanted to move to Toronto so badly. I wanted to go to the big city. And then my dad got this transfer with his job, and he said I could go with him if I promised to, like, go to school. And so I ended up going to Humber College. I did hotel restaurant management because I was working at a restaurant, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. But yeah, graduated that when I was 18. Realized nobody wants to hire an 18-year-old manager for a restaurant. So I went back to school and moved back to my mom's place and did liberal arts at that cégep college I was mentioning. So I did you do 2 years of liberal arts, and then from that you can theoretically go into a second year of your bachelor program. So it acts as like your first year. Because my plan was I wanted to be a lawyer. And I did my LSATs and everything. And but then during this time I had taught myself how to do makeup by watching YouTube videos, because this is when YouTube was a big thing. And so I taught myself how to do makeup. And I had a teacher who was an amazing teacher. He gave me some really good advice. It's words that, like, I lived my life by for a very long time. He told me, he's like, do what you love, and if you're good, you'll be successful. And if not, you're just going to be happy doing what you love. And that was my gospel for so long, because it was just like, yeah, that's the secret to a happy life. Do what you love, and if you're good, you'll be successful. And if not, you're just going to be happy doing what you love. And if that's all that matters, right? So I decided not to go into law school because I didn't want to. I always had good grades, but I really struggled in school. I'd be really like into it at the beginning and have a lot of like steam, and then I'd like kind of lose steam towards the end and struggle to make it through the exams and stuff like that, just because it was, by that point I was like bored of whatever it is I was learning. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, were you working through this whole time still?
Yeah, I was working in restaurants, I think mostly at that point. So I had started as a hostess, worked up to server, then bartender, in various restaurants around Ottawa and Toronto. And then...
and you were kind of motivated, like, financially to make money for yourself?
At that point, no. I was working... I can't remember how much money I was making, but most of it was in tips, because I think we were being paid like $7 an hour was the minimum wage at the time. And I don't think I was working full-time. I definitely wasn't working full-time when I was in school. I was working just on like part-time, living with my mom so I didn't, have many expenses, but I wasn't making very much money.
And why were you working? Because you enjoyed it, or because you wanted the money to then go and do things that your mum wouldn't pay for?
Well, yeah, my parents never paid for anything. So like, no, my parents paid for my school. I'm very fortunate. They had saved up enough money for my first program, so I didn't have to pay for my hotel restaurant management program. And then Sage Up is free. I just had to pay for my books. But like, I paid for my books. I paid for...
What is Sage Up?
Sage Up, that's just what you call, like I said, it's a 2-year thing that you do after high school, but before bachelor or university.
Does it stand for something? That's the French system. It's like copying.
It's a French phrase. It's like collège éducation du Québec.
Yeah,
I don't know. Something.
Your French is terrible.
I can't remember. I can't remember what it stands for.
I mean, you do speak Spanish, right?
Yes, my Spanish is much better than my French.
We'll get to Nicaragua in a sec. Okay,
so I paid for my books. I paid for that. At this point, like I was living at my mom's place, and I don't think I was contributing to food. Like I think she was buying the groceries still, but other than that, like I paid. I mean, if my mom listens to this and I'm lying, like she can tell me, but
yeah.
As far as I remember, I paid for my cell phone. I paid for any clothes I wanted. I paid for, my makeup. I paid for, my nail. I think I got my nails done all the time. I'm like, why did I spend my money on that? I don't know, but
I'm just wondering because now you're obviously in a position where you support other members of your family, like you're. I'm wondering kind of at what point. I mean, yeah, because now you're earning all this offshore tax-free money. No, that's something I never thought of that, but whenever I'm like, oh yeah, Laura, she works on a yacht, people are like, lucrative.
It's very lucrative. I was like, because I'm seriously considering a land-based job, and I'm like, I would need to make 80k pounds a year, which I don't know, I guess that's pretty reasonable, but just to have the amount of money that I make now, but then more if you consider that I don't pay rent really when I'm there and stuff like that, right? So I'd have more living expenses.
Or food or...
Yeah, for like half the
bills.
year. For half the year.
Yeah, for half the year. Yeah. And then you're asking me for tax advice, which probably isn't the best idea. Okay. So... I worked through my schooling, yeah. Okay, because would they kind of like, you need to go and get a job, or was it just understood?
No, well, okay, so my dad was always very hardworking. I actually got my first job working for my dad when I was 14. He manages a moving company, so you're not allowed to work legally at 14 years old. Obviously, that's illegal, I think. But I would go and work in his office and do like help unpack people's houses. And I'd get paid like $15 an hour or something, which was amazing money at the time. Cash. Like that was during the summer, I remember. And then, and my dad always like instilled like a really hard work ethic into me. So like we framed my first ever paycheck and we put it on the wall. So I think, I definitely have to attribute my work ethic to my dad, and my, unfortunately also I put way too much of my self-worth into my work and my job and stuff, which also I'll think, thanks Dad, love you a lot actually. But,
how did he grow up? Like, where did that work ethic come from for him? Do you know?
I'm sure it came from his dad too. His dad was an engineer. He worked for I want to say communications company. It was Novotel, I think it was, maybe potentially. Anyway, so he had a good job, and he worked hard, I think. He supported my grandma, so like she didn't have to work. I think maybe she was a secretary or something, but so it probably came from that. Maybe. And then passed it along to me. And then I've always I just always wanted to work. I mean, first of all, I had fun and I wanted to have my own money, probably to do drugs. Like honestly, no, at that point I wasn't doing drugs. I stopped. Like I said, my rebellious phase was from like when I was a teenager, like from when I was like 13 to 18. And then I went to college and I stopped.
You were just working and studying.
Yeah. And I haven't really had a serious, like, had done drugs a handful of times since then, but nothing crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so then at what point... Okay, so then you were like, I have to do what I love.
Yeah, so because at that point I'm like thinking, I think I'd make and I still think I'd make an amazing lawyer, because I think I know how to argue a point, and I don't know, I don't take no for an answer. So I'll just like keep going. My mom would always be like, she would always get really frustrated because I'd like ask her to borrow the car and she'd say no. And I'd be like, well, why? Because this. And she'd have no reason to say no, except she's like, no, because I said so. That's why. Like, you know, because I'm your mother. But I wouldn't be happy in school for that long. So yeah, I had taught myself how to do makeup. And a friend suggested I try to get a job at MAC Cosmetics. And I thought that I wouldn't be able to because I thought you'd have to go to makeup school, have some sort of credentials. And, but I decided to apply anyway, and I got an interview and yeah, did the interview, did a makeup application and got the job. It was a part-time job though. So I still had to work as at a restaurant at the same time. So I could like make ends meet. I'm trying to think, like I was still living at home at that point, I think. I had gone on trips. I was saving for trips. Like I went on like 2 Europe trips and stuff like that. So that's what I was spending my money on. But,
who did you go with?
The first trip I went with some friends from college, and, I remember the day we left, I was like, no, sorry. It was a good trip. It was a really fun trip, but basically they, you know, wanted to go to bed early. We were in Paris and it was like 9:00 and they wanted to go to bed, and, you know, they didn't want to go out enough. And I remember thinking, I'm like, we're young, let's go. We're in Paris. Like, what the heck come on, let's go have it, like sit at a cafe at least and like people watch. I don't know. And so the second trip I went on was with my girlfriends to Spain, and all they wanted to do was party. And in Spain, they party until 6 a.m. So I didn't get to see any of the things I wanted to see, like anything cultural. I remember my friend, she goes, we're in Sevilla, walking past a river, and you know what like European rivers are like? They're just like they're not nothing special, right? Kind of dirty, kind of still, not like Ottawa, where it's like whitewater rafting capital of the world, right? So my friend goes, she sees a kayaker going down this river, and we're like, okay, so tomorrow we're gonna go to the cathedral and the bullfight ring and this and that and the other thing. And she's like, well, guys, when you're doing that, I think I'm gonna go kayaking. And I was like, you're from Ottawa, like, you know, like what do you mean you're in Sevilla? You're gonna go kayaking? She's like, I just don't like looking at history. And I was like, why the fuck did you come to Spain? Why for $3,000? I think we had like $3,000, and I was like, for that amount of money, you could have gone to Cuba, all inclusive, for 2 weeks at a 5-star resort, and just got smashed every day.
But could you have gone kayaking?
So yeah, so
was that your first time overseas, or
those were my 2 first overseas trips? Yeah,
you'd been to the US.
I think when I was 12, I went to visit my grandparents in Florida once, but like, I mean, that counts, I suppose.
Really? So you'd never like driven down to New York or anything?
No, I hadn't left the country except for that one quick Florida trip. Yeah. So I was 21 or something, I think, when I went traveling the first time, 2021. And then the second trip, I think I was like 22 or 20. I think it was 22. And then, yeah, and I decided after both of those trips that the next trip I went on, I was going to go alone because, you know, then I could do things at my pace instead of other people's paces.
So you just really enjoyed traveling from that point?
That must have been what started it, yeah. But then, yeah, so then I was, to go back, I guess, I was working part-time at MAC, which was awesome. And
where you got your first lipstick?
Where I got my first lipstick. It's, yeah, MAC's a Canadian company.
Oh, I didn't know that. I was about to ask.
Yeah, founded by 2 men in Toronto, gay men, and that's why they're like AIDS cause is so important to them. Like the Viva Glam lipsticks, you buy them, 100% of the proceeds goes to the MAC AIDS Fund.
There you go.
There you go. No, it's a great company, and they don't spend any money on advertising. They treat everyone really well there.
Apart from this podcast.
Yeah, they're not paying me, but. Hey Mac, I love your makeup. But yeah, so the great part was, so here I am. So I decided I wanted to. This is my first business. I became a freelance makeup artist. I started offering my services on like online. I just like posted things on the Craigslist basically. Started getting clients. I would do like bridal and proms and things like that. So my dad also was into photography. So I ended up being a makeup artist for him for a few photo shoots, which was a great experience. And I got really good photos of my work. And then, and then it was, so one day, like I said, I was working part-time at MAP, part-time at a restaurant it was in a shopping center. So there was a banquet or what do you call that? Conference center above it. And one day I had a table of 18 women and I was serving them and she goes, "Oh my God, I love your makeup." And I was like, "Thanks, I'm a makeup artist." She's like, and so there had been a bridal convention that day. And she was just like, "Oh my God, I'm getting married." I'm like, "I need a makeup artist." And so
what the fuck is a bridal convention?
I guess where you have lots of like vendors who are for wedding dresses and venues and caterers and flowers and whatever else. Like they all set up shop and you can go to the bridal convention and like, but so she had been up there with this table of 18 women who were her bridal party and family and everything. And so this was one of my first jobs because I had just literally that day I had bought this rolling makeup case from Amazon. And so I'm serving.
Did Amazon exist back then?
Yes, it did. Amazon's existed for a long time. That's only 10 years ago, okay? I know, it feels like forever.
Maybe not outside North America.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely not. But anyway, so I was so excited. Like I said, I had just bought this makeup case. I'm like, it's official. I designed business cards and everything. I'm like, I'm going to be a professional makeup artist. This is who I am. And then I got this job because she's like, "Oh my God, I need a makeup artist." And so she was like of African heritage. So she ended up having a traditional African wedding and a Western wedding and like a bridal shoot and a bridal shower. And so I ended up doing her makeup like 5 times. And then on the wedding day, there was like 18 women we had to do their makeup. So I ended up hiring 2 people that I knew in the industry that were like to come and help me. All right. And I just paid them like an hourly wage and then kept all the money. And it was like...
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the example of like manifesting, or it's like you set your intention and then it's like something just lands in it.
Well, that's, yeah. I mean, I had decided on something. I was making a lot of effort to go in that direction. Like I said, I bought my case. I don't know.
What gave you that idea?
To be a makeup artist? Or
to freelance?
Well, like I said, I hate being told what to do, and I just like I want to like I'm definitely an entrepreneur at heart. I don't know where if the idea was given to me by somebody or if it came out of my heart or not, but that's what you do if you're a makeup artist. You freelance, like you don't work for like you can work for Mac and be a makeup artist, or you get your own clients.
And the drive was really, it was like I want to work for myself. I want to be into, rather than like doing the maths of like, oh, I could make more money. It was
like I was setting my rates. I was doing my work. I was finding my business. the goal is to get clients and then like and get more confidence and then like charge more and get bigger clients and get I think at the time I had ambitions of working for magazines and like other photographers, right? Like my dad was a photographer, so I ended up doing like 1 or 2 other shoots with 2 other photographers, and so like it's a lucrative business. Like there's so many avenues you can go into. I wanted to get into special effects makeup at one point, and I had my mom's cousin works for the CBC, which is like the BBC, and I was like, oh, I could. He could help me get like an internship with the makeup artist like there. And I'm like, and then I could get into that industry,
Cool.
But all for myself, yeah.
So you're just very ambitious, naturally.
I guess so.
Okay, so
that was my first business.
And how old were you then? Like 22?
Yeah, like about 22.
And how did you end up moving to Nicaragua?
Yeah, so the next step from the makeup artist thing was I wanted to learn how to do hair updos. So I thought that if I could do makeup and hair, then I could do weddings and charge, because that's the thing, is you can charge like a lot of money for that if you're good at it, but brides will pay a lot of money. to have their hair and makeup done, and then you could just like do one wedding, like work 2 days a week and like, be fine.
Because is it one of those things where it's like if you're setting your rate, it's like that shows that you're good. If you're charging X amount,
exactly,
people want you because it's like, wow, she must be really good because it's
which is it's a fine balance. Like people always say that, oh well, just you charge what you charge, and you'll attract those types of clients and stuff. But there is a fine balance where you have to have the confidence. So you do have to start somewhere, and you like starting with free, doing makeup for your friends for free, then charging a little bit, then charging a little bit more until you get your confidence up and word of mouth and evidence of your work. And then you can start charging as much as you want.
And you did have the confidence, like, I am really good at this.
No, definitely not. No, like I wasn't at that point yet. Like I think always kind of, I've always felt that like, like that imposter syndrome a little bit. And I'm like, like what the fuck, like who, these people really want me to do their makeup? Like, okay, cool. I can do that. Sure. But like, clearly I was doing something right. But,
and then
but anyway, so I wanted to learn how to do hair updos. So I ended up, like I said, because Mac was part-time, I ended up getting a job at a hair salon full-time as a receptionist. So I said bye to Mac and working reception at this hair salon so that I could learn how to do updos. Ended up falling in love with hair and doing my hairstyling apprenticeship. And then actually that's like basically when I stopped doing makeup at that point because I was so obsessed with doing hair. So I worked for 3 years to get my license. And then, but like that whole last year of that, I had this burning desire to go traveling. Like I couldn't, like I had to. I spent all of my spare time researching routes and flights and bus routes and hostels and activities and like things I would do and
in Central America.
Well, all over the world at that point. I hadn't decided on a specific area. I was searching Central America, Australia. I wanted to do my Australian like working holiday visa, Europe, Southeast Asia, everywhere. What I decided on Central America because a friend of mine, oh God, that's a whole other story, but a friend of mine was getting married in St. Lucia, and she invited me to be a bridesmaid in her wedding. So I was like, well, okay, if I go to Central America, then the flights will be cheaper. I could go do 6 weeks of traveling and then fly to do the wedding and whatever. That's how I ended up in Central America. So I did, landed in Costa Rica, went from Costa Rica to Cancun in 6 weeks, which is not enough time to do that. You need more. And then Cancun, flew to St. Lucia for the wedding. And then I still had a little bit of money left over. And that had been my goal, was to travel till my money ran out. So I ended up going back to Nicaragua because that's where I had had the best time, I guess. And that's where my money ran out.
And so you just had full confidence when you were leaving.
Yeah. That
you were like, I'll spend all my money and then I can just make it again because I know how to do hair, I know how to do makeup. I have. Yeah,
well, I left on good terms with the hair salon that I worked at. I had, like, I think they were expecting me to come back. Like, I don't think that, because my plan was to my plan was to travel until my money ran out, and then I was going to go back to Canada. That was originally the plan.
And you thought that might be like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I thought maybe I'd do a working holiday in Australia or some potentially, but I never had the money for it, right? But I never planned that would be like the last time I lived in Canada, right? That's just
spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
That was the last time you lived in Canada. So you were just desperate to like see the world, like you just wanted to get up. Because I guess were you still living with your mom?
No, at that point, no. I had actually moved in with. Oh gosh, I have such a long, interesting life. I'm also very humble. No, a friend. I had been dating this guy. Dating's a loose term. Ended terribly. I had moved in with him. Okay,
out of your mom's place.
I had moved out of my mom's place. This was after my second trip so after I came back from Spain, I moved in with this guy. I had worked with him. Long story short, he had a whole other family, but somehow he signed a lease with, so here I am thinking that we were
in love.
Was
he older?
He was a bit older, yeah. I think he was 10 years older.
Or what?
No, he at a restaurant that I had worked at. 10 years older than me. Tim Hortons? No, Montana's actually. Okay. Montana's. It's like an Outback steakhouse kind of, but it was where the table's covered in paper and then you have to write down your name in crayon.
Fun. Okay, so he worked with you there and you had no idea that he was married and had children.
No idea, because we signed a lease together, so I just assumed that we were together. But obviously I was very young and dumb and ignored a lot of, now I can see clearly huge red flags.
Like what?
Well, I mean, just like him not coming home. Like,
where did you think he was?
No, drunk with his friends. I don't know.
What was he doing, signing a lease? Was he in the middle of a breakup, or why did he have a second? Like, where did his family think he was on a business trip?
I met his family too. That's the other thing too. Like, I think like he was still with that other woman. They'd broken up, or they also had a rocky relationship, and he was kind of going between the two of us almost, like.
Wow.
It was, anyway.
How many kids did he have?
He had 2 kids. No, well, we had 1 kid and a step kid.
Wait, you met them, and who did you think they were?
I met his kids. I met his family. I met his parents. I met his brother.
Did you know they were his kids?
I knew they were his kids, yeah. I knew that there was like this. What he told me was that they had broken up ages ago. That they had,
And did your family like him?
No, I don't even know how much my family actually interacted with him, to be honest, because I think, like, obviously I knew that. I mean, my mom obviously met him because she came to my apartment when I moved out, but I only lived with him for a few months. Like, it was
in like a 1-bed place, or you moved in as like flatmates.
Yeah, it was like a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment we rented close to where he worked, and then.
But like as a couple, you rented.
Yeah.
And was your mum worried about that?
No, I don't. Like I said, I'm very strong-willed, and I'll just whatever I decide I want to do, I'll end up doing. So
okay.
It probably didn't matter what my mom said. If my mom said that she was concerned, I'd probably be like, "Whatever, Mom, I'm fine." Like I probably wouldn't have listened to her anyway. Yeah. But anyway, so obviously that ended terribly, and when I found out for sure that he was cheating on me, in quotes, like, and then I was living on my friend's couch for a couple weeks, and I had just started working at this hair salon, and one of the girls, I was like at work one day, like couldn't contain myself. I was crying so much about this breakup, and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Oh, I broke up with this guy that I was living with, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Well, my roommate's moving out, and I need a roommate. Like, we could try living together." Turns out, like, she's like, we'll just try it because we work together, we live together. It could be too much, but we became instant best friends. It was perfect, the living situation. We got along so well. We would make dinner for each other, like, or lunch or whatever. So if we were on different shifts, like, I would make lunch in the morning, bring it to work, and we'd both have lunch, and then she'd go home, make dinner, and then I'd have dinner when I get home because she made it. That kind of thing. I have amazing memories living with her. She is, an incredible human being. Now she's married and has 2 kids, and we've completely lost touch. But she was also, I would say, like a huge, just like that first girl in math class. This one was another one who was really, she was so confident that she doesn't care what anyone thinks. Like, she kind of goes against the grain a little bit. But just, she was just so effortlessly cool. And I learned a lot from her about just, not taking myself so seriously, I guess. I don't know, just being a little bit more confident in my skin. She's amazing.
And was this in Ottawa or
Ottawa.
in the...
Yeah.
Okay.
We had an amazing apartment downtown Ottawa, which at the time we were paying like 1,400 Canadian dollars a month, split between the 2 of us, and then now I'm sure it's probably like at least twice that. It's crazy, but yeah.
Okay, so then at some point you went to Nicaragua.
Yeah. So we, I left to go traveling after I got my hair license, And like I said, ended up in Nicaragua because that's where my money ran out.
And then what?
Well, yeah, so it was like March or April, I think. It was like end of March. So I was like, all right, well, I can either go home, live with my mom, get a job, just, at the hair salon or at a restaurant or doing whatever I needed to do. And, or I could try to find a job in Nicaragua because it was, March is really cold in Canada. So that was my deciding factor. So I ended up sending out a bunch of emails to hotels asking if they needed a hair or makeup artist because I was thinking that there was, Costa Rica is a big destination wedding location. I was like, Nicaragua was really up and coming at the time. And I was like, yeah, maybe they need like a freelance makeup artist for like weddings and stuff like that. And so I got an email back from one hotel saying, well, we don't really need anyone like that, but we do need a restaurant manager. Actually, it was a bar manager. And I was like, yeah, sure, I could do that.
Was this in Spanish?
English, because it's so the hotel was obviously catering towards mostly foreigners. So all the employees only spoke Spanish, except the servers. They spoke a bit of English. But yeah, I joined as the bar manager, and then the restaurant manager quit shortly after. And so I moved into the restaurant manager position.
And you just had the confidence, like, yeah. Oh, I guess you'd worked in hospitality.
Well, yeah, I had my hotel restaurant management diploma. I'd worked in hospitality for years at that point, serving, bartending, handling large sections. I'm like, yeah, I can do this. Obviously, it was a huge learning curve for sure, but it was amazing experience. I had a team of I'm trying to remember how many people I had, but it was at least 12 to 20 people. I'm pretty sure between the kitchen and the front of house. And yeah, and I didn't speak any Spanish at that point, really.
But so you picked it up.
I learned, in 6 months I was fluent because I was the only restaurant manager. So 10 to 12 hours a day I was in the restaurant. My tongue was so tired. My brain was so tired. But if I wanted the kitchen staff to do anything that I told them to do, I had to speak in Spanish. The purchaser for the hotel only spoke Spanish. The accountant only spoke Spanish. So I had to, all of the vegetable providers, they only spoke Spanish. So if I didn't want to get ripped off, I had to learn. Yeah. Were
you worried about them not respecting you as a foreigner who didn't speak the language?
Not really.
As a woman or anything?
Yeah, I was considering there's a little bit of machismo in the culture for sure. I thought they wouldn't listen to me because I'm a woman. But for the most part, I had so much confidence in myself that I just could do whatever, and I did a lot of really good things there. So they, I really focus, I think my management style is I really focus on the employee, or the first thing I noticed was that the work week in Nicaragua is 6 days a week. So you only get 1 day off. But if you work, a schedule of day and night shifts, you only have to work 45 hours a week, not 48. So that means, what I did was I changed the schedule to be 5 9-hour days instead of 6 8-hour days. And then by doing that, up until that point, they had I had people working 12 days in a row so that they could have 2 days off in a row. So they could travel back to Managua, which is the capital, go visit their families, right? Which is a full day travel there and back, full day there, full day back. So they'd be 1 day there, right? And then come back to work and work 12 days in a row. Right. And they're not making very much money. Right.
How much?
I think minimum wage was 10. It worked out to be almost $10 a day.
Wow.
10 American dollars a day. Yeah.
And what were you making? Do you remember?
I made $1,000 a month. So it was about 3 times what they were making. And then, and so the first thing I did was I changed their schedule so that everyone was getting 2 days off a week instead of just 1. Because I'm like, well, this is ridiculous because you guys are going to be so tired, traveling to go visit your family and coming back. And by law, you only have to work 45 hours, not 48. So let's do it. This other hotel was doing it. And I was like, we should be doing this, treating our employees right.
And management were fine with that?
Yeah, I didn't run into too many issues when I made that change. Although as soon as I left, they changed it back, I'm pretty sure. And then the other thing I noticed was that they weren't getting their extra tips. So this hotel, I left this hotel because they were super corrupt, terribly run. They've since gone out of business and been taken over a handful of times. But the employees weren't getting their extra tips.
Who was taking it?
The hotel. It was just going into the hotel. They were so behind. So what was happening is there's a service charge that's added on to all the bills. Half of that goes to the hotel, half of that gets divided amongst all of the staff. But people were able to write in like $10 or $5 or whatever, an extra tip for that server, right? If they got good service. So I had to go through every single receipt every week. I would go through every single receipt, make a spreadsheet with all of the extra tips, print it out, whatever, and then go to the accountant and be like, I need you to make a check for these right now, basically.
Oh, what? So the accountant was the one being like, I'm just gonna keep this.
I don't know if it was the accountant. I don't know if it was the general manager. I don't know if it was, who was making those decisions. I honestly think it was just getting lost in red tape or just admin. Like no one was really keeping track of it. Right. Mm-hmm. Because so that was like the first thing. And then I implement. And so with those 9-hour shifts, that meant I had like an hour overlap with my staff. And what I found, so it was really frustrating because the service staff, they like, I'd be like, okay, what don't we have today? Oh, sorry. No, that's a different story. No, basically I was trying to figure out why, they were always so nervous going up to tables and stuff, right? Like they weren't giving, like they weren't checking in with the clients. They weren't doing this. And, I realized it's because they weren't confident in their English. And things like that. So, and then there was some other service training and stuff. So basically in those hours of overlap, I would do English classes, I would do service training. I would do, I even implemented like a yoga classes for them if they wanted to try doing that kind of thing. And so overall, like when I left there, everyone was like really sad that I was leaving because I treated everyone really well.
And you were just motivated by doing a good job.
Well, yeah, because the way I saw it was like, well, if my employees are happy, they're gonna, if they're rested because they're not traveling, if they're confident in their English, if they're doing this, they feel respected, they're gonna want to do a good job. And if they do a good job and make the clients happy, then I'm happy because the clients are happy. And then if I'm happy, I'm gonna like make them happy. And it was just like a happiness circle. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, I was very confident. I would come up with ideas all the time about how to improve the restaurant and stuff there. Yeah. Good times.
And you ended up leaving to...
Because, one of the reasons I met a boy, local guy, fisherman, surfer, captain, quotes. He was the beach attendant. And then he, so the idea was, like, so we were sleeping together and then I didn't think anything was going to come serious of it, but we ended up, the idea was we were going to fix up his dad's little fishing boat and do like some surf trips and fishing trips and things like that. And then snowballed into me buying a brand new boat with a brand new motor. And and I didn't have any money at this point, right? So I ended up...
So it was just what you'd save from the hotel?
Yeah, and I put it all in a credit card. Basically.
A Canadian credit card?
Canadian credit card. Charge card. Do you know what the difference is between I'm sure you do. The difference between a credit card and a charge card?
No. What? I've never heard of a charge card.
Well, a charge card. So because I had such good credit, Amex gave me a gold charge card that has no limit. Right? The difference between a charge card and a credit card, I found out, is so my credit card had a limit of 7,500 Canadian, I think. And so the motor that I was going to buy was 7,500 American. And so with the difference, I was like, all right, I'm going to have to do some math. And like, so instead of putting it mostly on my credit card and just the balance on my charge card, I was like, well, let's just do one transaction on my charge card. And then the bill comes at the end of the month and there's like a $400 interest charge on it. And they're like, you have 30 days to pay this or like, it's going to go to collections. I was like, what do you mean? 30-day grace period? What's going on? And they're like, so a charge card, there's no limit, but you have to pay the full balance every month. And so after 90 days, it went to collections. I had like $400 of interest charges every month, even though by the time it went to collections after those 3 months, I had paid off the majority of it, scrapping together from working, from the boat job, from my tax return, like from the year before. I think I only had about $3,000 left to pay off, which if it was on a credit card, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But anyway, so
what happened?
Well, I just ruined my credit. That's all. I ended up paying it off like within the year. Like I was able to pay it off, but
and you just ended up paying massive
I paid a lot more
interest.
Lots of interest, and then it ruined my credit, so I have no credit in Canada anymore.
Okay, good financial lesson for anyone.
Yeah, don't use your credit card. Anyway, but yeah, so but it was except for that, it was my risk assessment at the time was, do I buy this? Like, worst case scenario, if I buy this boat, best case scenario, I have a business on the Pacific coast of Nicaragua with my boyfriend, and it's amazing, right? Best case scenario.
Okay, yeah, because the plan was buy the boat and then you'll start taking tourists on fishing trips or little tours. Yeah. And you knew there was appetite for that because you'd seen at the hotel people.
Yeah, so where we lived, to the south of us, there was a huge expensive resort and right in front of a famous surf break, $1,000 a night. So unless you were staying there, you couldn't go surfing there. Same thing to the north of us. There was a private development. You had to get your name on the list to get in. World famous surf break. So people would stay in our little village, rent boats, and then go around to these different surf breaks and things like that. So it was a business.
Were like, he can speak. He can
drive the boat. He knows how to. Yeah, he knows where the spots are. He knows how to fish. He knows all of the operations, I guess. And then I was like,
and you'll source the capital for him. Was it more his idea or it was both of you?
It was like his idea, but like the thing is, like, you know, you're making it sound like he was like using me for like well, you know, he was using me for my money, but not like as like intelligently as you were making him out to be. Like, he was just using me for my money. He had no plans to actually work for the money. There was several times where he would just refuse to come and work, and I'd have to go find somebody else to run the boat.
Because you didn't know how to drive it.
Of course, I didn't know anything about boating.
Did you know how to buy it, or that was all he was like, go buy this boat?
So we kind of found it out together, like where the boats were built in this like town north. We had to go there. We had to like source it. We pay the guy. We had to buy the materials for the roof. Find the welder. Get the welder to do the roof. Went to the Capitol. Got like coolers and life jackets, and figured out how to get all the different government licenses that you had to get, and like all this kind of stuff.
And you were like, cool, this is like business round 2, like when I was the makeup artist.
Kind of, yeah. I was just, it was challenging. We had to figure out a lot of different things. He was, you know, helpful to a point because he obviously was from there, but he also didn't know a lot. And he was just a dummy. A huge dummy.
Wait, by the way, were you, because you didn't have legal status in Nicaragua, were you worried? Like, so you were just accepting cash from the hotel and like stuffing it in your mattress, or how?
No, so the hotel was paying me directly into my bank account, I think back in Canada. And at that point, because I was on a visitor visa, so I don't know how the hotel was working that out.
Were they an international?
They were big enough that they would have been able to, like, there are a lot of leeway for businesses like that under a certain law that Nicaragua has, where they can, like, they can figure that out legally for themselves. For me, I mean, yeah, it's such a gray area because, you know, at that time I was still paying taxes in Canada, so
on that money.
Well, yeah, but also I claimed all of that money, but I also didn't make enough money that like I wasn't, you know, $1,000 a month is poverty basically in Canada. So I didn't make enough money that year to like actually pay taxes, I don't think, but that was going into my bank account in Canada, not in Nicaragua. And then when it came to the boat, the business was all registered under his name, so that was all legal. And then I mean, I was just there, like, yes, I was like working and doing like most of the work, but the business was all under his name. So like, and then we were living together. So we were, you know, all the money just came into our household. And then, I mean.
And did the business make money?
Yeah, like I don't have any like proper accounting like documents that I could show you of like how much I made or spent during that time. But I would say we probably made like, I was probably around $1,000 a month while we had it. Like, let's say,
so
after
you made
expenses.
the money back on the boat.
Yeah.
Oh, well, because you sold the boat.
I ended up selling the boat for less than I bought it for. But yeah, so I when I look back on it, I think that I broke even. Like, I don't really think about like that I made very much money, because he was a terrible boyfriend, terrible business partner. You just drink away all the money. So we were just like using it to survive, right? We weren't really saving anything or like really invest. I think we bought a couple fishing rods and stuff, but other than that, we didn't really invest much back into that business. But we did, like, we made money. We had lots of clients. I was advertising. I had, made up all my brochures. I was making a website. I was advertising in all the different towns. I had a taxi service lined up. I was like partnering with different hotels and like,
cool.
I was trying to make it something.
Nice.
But without him, I just didn't have enough. When we broke up, I tried to hire somebody else to kind of run it, but it wasn't the same, because the whole idea was that we were doing it together, and he spoke really good English, and he was, I don't know. I didn't have any heart in it at that point, so yeah.
And then you got into yachting.
Yeah, well, no, first I didn't open my hair salon in Nicaragua.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So, but that was kind of, you were just running it out of where you lived.
So, yeah, right before I sold the boat, I had no money at this point. I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do, because I had this boat, no captain. I didn't know anything about boating. I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? I was about to call my dad and ask him to send me some money so I could like get a flight home. And then
Would your parents have been supportive of that, or were they?
Yeah, my dad would have done that for sure, absolutely. Like,
they were like, "Okay, no idea what you're doing in Central America."
No, my mom came to visit me at one point after this period of time, but she came to visit. Yeah, had a great time.
Did you ever think you would end up staying? Like, were you thinking much about the future, or you were just kind of like,
No, not. I didn't plan any of this. Like, I literally was taking it one day at a time. Like I said, like, I ran out of money. I'm like, okay, do I go to Canada or stay here? Stay here. Okay, cool. All right, I have this. Do I buy this boat, or do I like go home? Buy this boat. Okay, this isn't working out. I'm like, fuck, do I go home, or do I try to make it work here? I'm like, okay, let's try to make it work here. So I,
did you have a good support network? Like, when things were going wrong?
Well, at that point, yeah. So I had a really good friend. We're not friends anymore, but she had a restaurant there, and I was working for her for room and board, basically. So she was letting me stay with her and feeding me in exchange for, like, I was managing her restaurant basically and serving. And but I did that for about a month, and I was like, I can't. Like, we just like living together, and it was weird for our relationship, right? So it was just like, but there was another girl from Australia there who had her hair salon, and she was really well established, and I wanted to do hair there, but I was like nervous because, like I said, I had just gotten my license before I left Canada. At this point, I hadn't really done much hair for about a year, so I was like, oh, who am I? No one's gonna want their hair done by me. But I had no choice, really, and I was like, hey, worst case scenario, nobody wants their hair done, right? Best case scenario, I have a bunch of clients. So I started getting clients one by one from my flyer that I put out. And I would put all my stuff in my backpack, get on my motorcycle, drive around to people's houses and do their hair. And then word of mouth, I'd get more and more clients, and to a point where I had enough clients that I could open up my own space. And instead of me going to them, they would travel hours to come see me. And
really?
Yeah, because I was in a town called San Juan del Sur, and then I wanted to live in this town called Gigante, which is about an hour north, and that's where I wanted to live and set up shop. And the people from San Juan would drive up to come see me, and it was great. But yeah,
to like have it styled or cut or both?
Both, colored, cut, everything. I did keratin treatments, and I mean, I was. Like I said, I was so into the salon. I fell into yachting at some point during this. After about a year of like doing hair there, I had heard about yachting from a lot of people that I had met in the industry, and I was like, well, that's something I could do, right? Hospitality, serving.
In which industry? In the hotel industry?
In yachting. Like, so, like, just.
But how did you meet those people?
Oh, they were just living there or traveling through and passing through and telling me about what they did for a living. And I was like, well, that sounds like a great job. You get to travel, you make a lot of money. It sounds like hard work, but like things that I could do. And so they told me how to find the jobs and all that kind of stuff. And so I ended up freelancing. Like I got, a few gigs. And then I ended up working for one family that only needed me like a couple weeks every month or so. So I'd like go work for 2 weeks, come back to Nicaragua for 2 or 3 weeks, go work for 2 weeks, come back for like 2 or 3 weeks.
And where was the boat?
That boat was Florida and the Bahamas, basically.
So you would just get a flight there.
Get a flight to Florida, get on the boat, go to the Bahamas.
And you were fine with re-entry to Nicaragua. Because how long were you there for at this point? Were they not
every time you re-enter Nicaragua, it resets your 90 days. So the more I leave, the better. Honestly. So every time you leave, you go back, you leave, you go back. It's fine. I don't know if they've clamped down on that now necessarily, but in countries like that, they just, it's, every time you go back in, you reset your 90-day limit.
Were you, because was the hairdressing business like set up legitimately or no?
Yeah, so it was set up through, so where I was operating, at first, no. At first, no, when I was just,
like getting cash.
Yeah. But then when I opened up my place, it was through another business, if that makes sense. So, it was kind of just under the umbrella of my friend's business, because where she was renting or the property that, she owned had a license for I don't know how to describe it, but, she could operate multiple different businesses underneath this one umbrella.
And so were you paying tax?
No.
Did you feel like
no,
I'm
because
not contributing to this economy, or were you like, no, I'm buying stuff here and I'm employing people?
Yeah, so basically that's kind of how I was seeing it, because I had really big visions for that place, to be honest. What I wanted to do, because the thing is, to get some like a business work visa like that, you have to invest, I think it's like $30,000, right? Which I didn't have. So I was, doing this. It's like kind of under the table at this point, but I was, I had hired an apprentice, because what really didn't sit well with me was the fact that I was charging $30 for a haircut. There are so many hairstylists in Nicaragua, right? Local girls that can cut hair, right? But they charge $3 for a haircut. But if you go to them, they're going to give you a $3 haircut. They're going to comb all your hair to the back, cut them like this, and it's going to look like crap. Or they'll do other kind of styles and techniques and things that, we're not used to. The color that they're used to having, like girls with like super dark hair. So they don't know how to handle, Western clients with really light hair, right? Because they'll use products that are too strong or too ashy, or they'll, make their hair too curly or whatever it is. Girls with short hair, they have no idea what to do with a woman with short hair. Just like they had no idea what to do with a man with long hair, because like they're like, no, men have short hair, women have long hair. That was just like their culture, their style, right?
Okay, so your clients were tourists,
all tourists. Yeah,
okay.
I wasn't taking away from like the local economy, because they wouldn't have trusted them to get their hair done anyway. But what I felt was not fair was the fact that, like, here I am charging $30 for a haircut because I have a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more education about how these people want their hair done. There is no reason why this Nicaraguan couldn't be charging $30 for a haircut if she had a little bit more education, right? So my big overall vision was like, I wanted to open up a beauty school where I could train the local girls how to do hair to the Western, like to Western clients. And that's what I really wanted to do. Well, actually what I really wanted to do was I had this vision of opening up like, a school in general. So this is kind of separate from the hair, but I got a job at work, just like at a friend's bar, just bartending, right? And she's like, oh, Laura, this was my ex-boyfriend's sister. She's like, oh, Laura, like, I heard you're working over at this place, like, if there's any positions for me over there, like, I really need a job. And I was like, all right, well, what do you want to do? She's like, oh, I'll do anything. I'm like, well, what can you do? What do you want to do? Anything. Anything. Well, what did you go to school for? Like, what do you like to do? She's like, well, I like to cook. And I was like, okay, well, what can you cook? And she's like, well, I can cook rice and beans and fried fish and like just the typical Nicaraguan food. And I was like, well, Nicaraguans are, yes, like they're very, very poor, but every single one of them has a cell phone. Every single one has a smartphone. Okay. Even grandparents. And they all have access to Wi-Fi. And I'm like, they just use it for like WhatsApp and Facebook and sending funny memes. And I told her, I'm like, all right, she lived right behind the Spanish school. So I was like, all right, why don't you take your phone, go to YouTube, look up some recipes, right? Look up a couple of recipes and like, and try them out. Next week, she comes back to me. She's like, oh my God, Laura, I'm going to make a pesto pasta. I'm going to cut the chicken breast open, put cheese inside, and then fry it. Right. And she was so excited. I'm like, well, this is amazing. I'm like, now you can go to that bar or restaurant and ask for a job. And they'll be like, well, what can you do? I can cook. What can you cook? Well, I can make cordon bleu and I can make pesto pasta. Like, I can do all these things. And like, that didn't cost you anything. You use the tools that you already have, did a little bit of research online, taught yourself how to charge more, right? Now you can get a job. Now you're more marketable, for lack of a better word. Now you can make more money. And I just felt like a lot of like, it's not a very capitalist society, obviously, but I just felt there was like a lack of education, obviously, but a lack of education in how to research and how to like find opportunities, right? Because they all have a smartphone. I'm like, I had taught myself how to do makeup by watching YouTube videos. Right? There's no reason. There's so many women there who like they wear so much makeup. I'm like, teach yourself how to do some makeup, like practice with your friends and there's the hotel right there. Go, find out. So basically what I wanted to do is I wanted to open up this school. Ideally, it would have been like an English school. Because if you're going to cater to Western clients, you have to speak English. Anywhere in the world that's going to help you, right? So it was going to be like a free English school, right? And then as we're teaching them English, I wanted to teach them how to find opportunities, how to research, how to teach themselves things. edX, Coursera, all of these places have lots of courses in Spanish, or in English, obviously. But, I wanted to, that was kind of my vision that I had, like, in the future. I wanted to open up this place. Anyway, I was starting with the salon. I'd hired one apprentice she was amazing, best personality. She already knew how to do a little bit of hair. And so every time I was doing a client, like she was there, she was like my, assistant / I don't know what you call it. Oh, yes, assistant apprentice. And I would teach her what I'm doing. I paid for her English classes so that she could, and now she speaks amazing English. And my goal was and then I gave her, so when I would leave the country for those 2 weeks, I would leave her there and I didn't, she would do locals hair out of my place. So, and then I would pay her like a percentage or whatever, like we'd split the profits, I guess, whatever. And, and so she was kind of like handling the local side of the business. I was doing the foreigners, but I was teaching her how to do the foreigners hair. That's how it started. And like, I obviously had so many plans to grow that and do other things, but then COVID happened.
Oh, wait. Okay. So you was going to do the yachting, but still you were going to do both.
I never planned to be in yachting full time. That was an accident. That was because of COVID.
This is fun. Wait, the yachting was because of COVID?
Like I said, up until that point, up until COVID, I was doing yachting freelance. Okay. 2 weeks here, back for 2 weeks. 2 weeks there, 2 weeks.
And you just plan to keep doing that?
I plan to keep doing that.
Because you were like, free travel, working and traveling could be cool.
Well, yeah, it was just like, make a bunch of money, go back, keep growing my hair salon, because that's what I love doing. My life was amazing. I had, like I said, I was growing this business. And
do you ever worry about anything?
Anything? What do you mean? What do you mean?
You're just such a... I'm like, I need to be more like you in the way that you seem to just like take opportunities as they come. Because I'm just constantly like thinking about the future, like so much worry, and then it stops you from doing anything. But you just seem to like no, but I think even here, there's something you said to me that, yeah, I mean, even here, like, you're in your time off, and then you wanted to live in this place because you're like, okay, Fulham, it's next to Chelsea, where the houses are the type of houses that have housekeepers. As, like, being, like, as opposed... I was like, is that just a cleaner? And you're like, no. It's, like, a bit more than that. Some people, like, someone does everything for them. Anyway. So, no, but then you were like, I know I have skill. Yeah, so straight away here, you're just like, oh, cool, I've picked up this work. I'm being paid £20 an hour to, like, do this work. And, like, I just have confidence that I have skills and whatever. Like, I can always get work and I can always... I don't know, it's just, like, some inherent confidence you have. But that you're just like, cool, let's go and do it. Let's start a boat business. Let's get the licenses.
Well, so the two, so like I said, there was 3 main cliches or whatever that I phrases that I live my life by. The first one was, do what you love, and if you're good, you'll be successful. If not, you'll just be happy doing what you love. The next one is, you can always make more money, but you can never make more time. That's a huge one, right? That drives a lot of what I do and makes a lot of my decisions for me. Is if I completely ran out of money right now, like I said, in the Nicaragua, I actually did run out of money, right? And I know that I can come back from that. So I know that I'll have skills and stuff, but you'll never be able to make that time back. So that kind of ties into that one is, I never want to regret like what could have been. Cause I think I don't know if I saw, I'm sure you've seen these lists of things that people regret on their deathbeds, and like, you know, well, what if I had asked that person like to go on a date with me, or like, what if I had bought that boat in Nicaragua, you know, like what could my life have been like? Like, you're literally never going to know unless you try. And I mean, I know I guess, yeah, I don't, every decision I make isn't like that. Like, there's still a lot of things that I'm too nervous to do, I think. Sometimes it holds me back, but overall, that's what I try to. Wait,
what's the third one?
Well, that wasn't really a cliche. Really, it was just like, I don't want to regret. The third one was, I don't want to regret like what could have been. Okay,
but and then you must be really resilient, because when these, you know, the breakups happen, or the, you know, the debt, you just have confidence in yourself that you can pull yourself back together, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think about it like that, but I mean, so right now I'm considering, hopefully no one from my yacht is listening to this, but I'm like this close to quitting my job again. And I think it's funny because now since I have had this full-time job, I've had more money than I've ever had before. And that kind of scares me a little bit, because now I'm like, that makes me kind of think about the future a little bit, because I'm like, well, I don't want to lose this. Like, I've never had something before to lose. I think that's probably when it comes to the money thing. I've never had money to lose, really. So I didn't know what that felt like. But part of me is like, okay, I want to keep this, but like, I don't know. Wait, what was the point of me saying this? Because I'm not worried about the future. Like, I know that like if I were to quit my job, there, like, and I, even if I didn't have this like backup money, there's always something that I could fall back onto. There's always a friend that I can go crash on their couch. There's always opportunities. There's always a way through. There's always a solution. Like, nothing is like the end of the road, if that makes sense. Like,
yes, this is so funny. This was advice from another, I don't know if he's a billionaire, but not the billionaire that at the hedge fund where I work now, or not the billionaire who you work for, but another person who is very successful as an entrepreneur. And yeah, because it was actually with me like being like, oh, I want to start this podcast or something. I mean, not that I'm monetizing this, right? But anyway, but something when I was like, I'm so scared, like I just have so much fear of like going and doing my own thing, and like, how were you, because yeah, he just had this idea and was like, started it, and I was like, did you have fear? And he was like, no, like you can just always sleep on a friend's couch. Like, it doesn't matter if you run out of money, there's always someone's couch you can sleep on. Yeah. And I think that's the attitude that ends up, like, I mean, that's the attitude you have to then go and like take all this
like,
risk. And
there's still fear for sure. Like, you know, in this, I'll try to use this example again. Like, me deciding right now whether or not I should quit my job. Fear is like, I might not get a high paying job again. I might have to use my savings. I might not be able to make it back again because I'll be working lower paid jobs. that or whatever, that kind of like scares me that I might run out, and then like, yeah, my family's going to need something and I won't be able to help or something like that. But on the other side of it though is like, yeah, but I'm like, I'm not happy, 100% happy where I'm at my job. I'm not being fulfilled enough. I'm not, I don't think there's enough room for growth there. Like to, I don't, and I'm like, well, like, so why would I, like, is that worth it to stay there because I'm scared about losing some money maybe?
Yeah, because then that defeats your other rule.
I have only one life and I can't make this time back. I'm only going to be this young right now, like once. That's it. I'm never going to be this young again. I want to enjoy my life while I have it. And I don't agree with, like working your ass. Like, I mean, I've worked my ass off, but I don't agree with just like working your ass off completely for no reason and just to get to retirement and then relax, Well,
so what would you say to because when you were saying that advice of like, do what you love and if you're good, you'll make money. If you're not, you'll be doing what you love. What would you say to people who are like, I don't really know what I love?
Then you have to try things. Because that's the thing. Like when I moved to, I always remember the first time it hit 5 years from when I had broken up with that first terrible boyfriend. I remember like the 5-year mark.
Darren?
Danny.
That is so weird because in my head I was like, I feel like this guy is called Darren.
It was Danny.
Now I feel like magic does exist.
It does. Well, and these are kind of signs and you're like on the right path and like, you know what I mean?
Weird.
You're aligned. Anyway, so I remember that 5-year mark going and I was like, oh my God, like it was like 5 years before I had met him. So I had only been with that guy for like a year and a half. And then like 5 years later, I'm living in Nicaragua with another guy I'm like, oh my God, 5 years ago? I didn't even know that guy existed. And now I've already broken up with him and moved on. And now I'm with this guy with a boat. That's cool. And then like, but no, what I was thinking, like, I didn't even know he exists. I didn't even know if you had asked me 5 years ago what was going to happen in my life, I wouldn't have told you that I was going to meet and then break up with this guy, get my hairstyling license, move to Nicaragua, buy a boat with another guy. Like, that's a lot of shit that happened in 5 years, right?
Yes.
So I didn't know that. I didn't know yachting existed. I didn't know that was a thing I could get into. I didn't know. Now I'm super interested in getting into consulting. I had no idea what a consultant was except from that show, House with John Cheadle. Have you ever seen that show, House of Lies? Good show anyway. Other than that, I had no idea. I didn't know that these were even a possible.
My ex-boyfriend went to school with John Cheadle. Okay.
Really? That's so cool.
East High in Denver. Okay, carry
on. Yeah.
No, that I think is great advice for anyone who is like worried about like, oh my God, what am I doing? Where am I going? If you think about where you were 5 years ago, it's like so much can change. Or if you're in a place where, you've gone through a breakup or like something bad's happened and you're really scared about the future, it's like, in 5 years, so much changes.
So much. In a year. If I were to list, I have like a whole list of things that I did.
Oh no, that's
like
Don Cheadle. Is that
who were you saying?
Yeah, Don Cheadle.
Yeah, the actor.
Sorry. Okay, wait. Can we... do you know how long we've been going for?
I have no idea, actually. When we
An hour 40. Oh, so wow, I feel like let's talk about life on the boat. Oh, wait. Say the thing you were going to say about a year ago.
No, it was just going to continue on. Like, I had a whole list of things that happened last year, just in 1 year. And I'm like... You never know what's going to come around the corner, and you just if you don't know what you want to do, then it means you have to it means it probably isn't what you're doing now.
Yeah, I think it's just having the courage to try things. Like the world can seem really scary, and when you're beaten down, absolutely. I guess we all kind of get beaten down by life. This is just how I'm feeling. And it's like, doing new things is hard, but it's like. Yeah, just trusting. I think that's why all the universe stuff is really good as well. Yeah. Like trusting, like things just work out. And if you just have to keep going. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, but you have to, like, the thing is, like, I don't make decisions, like, with 100% confidence ever, even though maybe it feels like, I think people always describe me as, like, a very brave and And like, they were saying, oh, you're so brave living in another country, you're doing that. I'm like, oh, like everything I've done, I've always done with a little bit of fear, but like, you just do it anyway. I mean, that sounds like, that sounds so cheesy, but like a friend of mine from in Canada is so jealous of my life, but then she works for the government, and you know, she's like, oh, well, I couldn't, because then I couldn't do anything like you're doing, because then I wouldn't have a pension. And like, I mean,
there's a choice. Yeah, but, and yeah, it's choices.
Yeah. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But then, like, yeah, embrace it.
Well, yeah, I guess it's knowing, like, there are a lot of people who don't have choices, and it's like, we are very fortunate that we do have choices. And then, even if you choose not to do something crazy, it's like, you know that you've chosen that.
Yeah. But I think even with us, it boils down to that like lack of like education of like how to research or how to find opportunities as well. Just like in Nicaragua and stuff like that. I think the same thing. People don't really know, you know, how to find opportunities. Like, I don't know if that makes, you know, they think it's just going to fall into their lap.
You just are like a go-getter but also,
yeah, because it's not going to just fall into your lap. Like, I'm not going to just like.
But also, I feel like it's like nothing's beneath you either. Like, some people would be like, oh, well, I'm not. Like, the fact that you just came and you're like, okay, what am I going to do? Like, yeah, all these hobbies, like salsa dancing, like rollers. Like, that's like scary for people to like go and do things and meet new people. Like, I mean, it is for me, but also for you to just be like, cool, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to. Like, great, just worked, like, met this person. Oh, yeah, who hopefully I'll get on the podcast. But, like, clean this person's house who's, like, this big philanthropist. And, like, you are just, like, other people, it's like, oh, why should I do that? Or, like, that, I don't want to, you know, it feels like you're not overthinking stuff. You're like, why not? Just go and earn some money. Like, I don't know. It's like...
Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to meeting people, I don't know how much of that is maybe just my person. Is that my personality, or is that just because I've always worked in restaurants and hairstyling where I meet like 100 new people every day? So maybe I'm just inoculized to it. You know, I'm just meeting strangers is just. Having said that, though, like, I mean, I still get so nervous if I go to a party or something. It's so awkward to make that first move to just like break the ice with somebody, to have a chat with some complete stranger. It's still like super nerve-wracking, even though I meet, like, I'll go salsa and in certain contexts, I guess if you have that like icebreaker, it's super easy. But if I don't have like a reason to say anything, like, it's so, I don't know. But yeah, traveling, I don't know. My icebreaker is always like, if I'm in a foreign country, I'm like, oh, excuse me, I couldn't help but overhearing you speak English. I speak English as well. I think we should be friends. But like, if I didn't have that, like, I wouldn't just go up to some stranger and be like, hey, like, we should be friends. Like, there has to be like a reason. You know what I mean? It's still scary. I still think it's, you know,
yeah, but
hard.
I guess that's the difference. It's like you feel the fear and do it anyway. Yeah, I feel like that's the title of a book.
It is, I think.
Okay.
Like Brene Brown or something. Anyway, all right. You want to get to Below Deck.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's the first thing you said when I was like, wow, you work on a yacht, and you were like, yeah, if you're gonna ask if it's just like Below Deck, it is. And I was like, what's Below Deck?
Have you watched it since we spoke? Yeah, for Below Deck, for those who don't know, is a reality show about life aboard a charter super yacht. So the difference between where I work in that boat is that my boat is private. I mostly work private, so it's not like different families every week, or I mean, it can be different families, but of the same family, or not complete strangers coming on board. So in that sense, it's harder in some ways, but also a lot easier because you know their preferences, and they tend to be a lot nicer, I guess. So the show, I guess, I'm sure it's dramatized a little bit, but like, they can be pretty horrible sometimes, I suppose.
How do you feel? Yeah, how do you feel being kind of treated like? I don't know. So
it's different. So I've worked on small boats and I've worked on big boats, and I've the smaller boats I worked on, you're treated a little bit more like family. You're treated and those boats were owned by Americans. And then so far, my experience, Americans are the best boat owners to work for because they actually they want to get to know you. They, they leave good tips. But they actually, they're friendly. And yeah, they care about you. They want to make sure you're being taken care of. And yeah, I always felt really welcomed there. And then those owners as well, the two main families I worked for, they had the men had they'd earned their money too. They didn't start always, well, I don't know how much money they started with, but, they earned all of this money from their business that they started. And, I think that changes their character a bit too, maybe, I don't know. But, you can tell the difference between people who grew up with a lot of money and people surrounding them all the time. They just, they treat you a little bit more like the furniture, like you're just there.
Yes. So the children are the people who are inheriting a lot of money versus the person who's made it.
Yeah.
Did you... Okay. Yeah, because this is... Okay. I don't know which part... You've already told me so much. So I'm like, what are the main things people ask you about it? I guess the crazy...
Well, they think it's amazing. Well, they're like, oh my God, where have you traveled to? That's one question. So I've traveled all over the world, well, not all over the world technically, but I've gone a lot in the Caribbean, started off mostly in the Bahamas, and then I've crossed the Atlantic 4 times, which is really cool. Not with guests on board, that's just crew doing that. And then I've traveled all around the Med, Italy, France, Spain, Greece. Haven't done Croatia yet, which is on my bucket list. But I've gone through the Suez Canal. I've gone to Qatar. I've gone to the Maldives. And I think the fjords are in the future at some point. I've got to travel. I've got to see a lot of places, in Italy, places I probably wouldn't go to on my own, Capri, I don't think I ever would have gone to Capri if I hadn't been there on the boat, or Corsica and Sardinia and stuff like that. I don't get to travel, I don't get to experience those places as much. People always say, oh my God, you get to travel. And I'm like, yeah, but France and Italy and Spain and Greece, they all look exactly the same from the water. You could literally be anywhere.
Just on the boat, you're not really going.
Yeah, you don't get to go to shore.
Because you don't have time off, right? When the owners are on, you're working.
Exactly.
7 days a week, is that?
Yeah. Every single day, 14 hours every day when the owners are on board. Sometimes you'll get an hour or 2 break. So if you're on the dock and you have a 2-hour break, you can go off. That's usually fine, but you generally want to sleep. Or you'll get off if you need to do provisioning. So if you need to go shopping at the store or anything like that, you'll get to go off. And so I'll get to go see the Carrefour or something of...
Wait, to buy stuff for the boat?
For the boat, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Crew supplies or guest supplies. When you're on a very long boss trip, on one boat I worked on, we would do a 2-month boss trip through the Med. So you can't... Boss trip?
Oh,
so the owners are on board every single day for 2 months straight. And you can't obviously stock a boat up for 2 months straight. That's just too much stuff. You don't even know what you're going to go through. So weekly, usually you'd have to go out and buy supplies or have things delivered and stuff like that. So
100 meters is so big. Sorry, I'm just realizing that.
Yeah.
And it's all silk and marble and super
lots fancy. Of really fancy furnishings. Lots of marble. So
there's just tons of rooms on the boat.
Guest cabins are usually between 8 and 12, depending on the size. That's the larger boats, right? On the smaller boats, you might have only 4 or 5.
And they're big size rooms.
They're pretty decent size.
What?
Yeah.
Is there a cinema on the boat?
Yeah, on the bigger ones. So on
is there a ballroom?
They have formal salons. There'll be a formal. Usually an upper and a lower salon, which is a big, large sitting room where you could if you wanted to move the furniture, I suppose you could turn it into a ballroom. There's usually a grand piano in the corner. Yeah.
But your room's kind of shit.
Yeah, it's the size of this couch, my bed, and
you hit your head on the ceiling.
Basically. Oh, no. Not on my current boat. My current boat is the best one, and I can actually sit up in bed, which is amazing. My last one, I couldn't sit up in bed. That's a huge difference. Sorry?
Was it bunks? You had
2 bunks. Yeah, so I share a room with one other girl, and we share a bathroom. And yeah, a lot of closet space actually, which is nice, even though like you wear the same outfit every day. So it does, I brought way too much clothing with me always.
Oh, because you wear a uniform.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's good that you work so much so you don't have time to think about needing a break. Because I feel like if you had to... No, but I feel...
Yeah, no,
really
for sure.
But if you had a break, you'd be like, I'm going fucking crazy. Like, I need to get off the boat. Like, I want to go for a walk or something.
Yeah, no, honestly, I prefer that. Like, to be honest, could we try to... Well, especially for the juniors, we keep the hours at 12 hours every day. They don't work more than 12. And obviously, it's way more preferable to work like 12 hours straight and then have 12 hours off than having like you work 14 hours with a 2-hour break. That's obviously worse because then you have, I don't know. It's just like, yeah, if you're in work mode, you just want to get work done. Because a 2-hour break, you're like, it's like you can go to the gym or like try to nap, but like then you're going to
crew gym on the boat.
There's a crew gym, yeah. Crew gym, crew. Yeah.
How many crew are there on your current boat?
On my current boat, we're about 40 at any one time. And then there's more on rotation. My previous boat was about 25 when we were fully staffed, when we were like, it was a slightly smaller boat. And then on the smallest boats I worked on, we were 5 crew in total.
Yeah. And that's why you're more like part of the family.
Yeah. So
what you mean is that it's like below deck is like, there's tons of like hooking up and
just drama, because there's so many different personalities, right? There's people from all over the world. Everyone's at a different level of, I mean, just like in the real world, right? Like everyone is at different levels of maturity and EQ and have different interests and different personalities. And, you know, it's one thing that you all work together, but then you also live together. So if you have, let's say, an altercation at work, you still have to sit together and have dinner, and then we might even share a room together and have to share the bathroom and like have to see each other in the hallway every single day. So if you don't know how to deal with conflict, then it can just become really dramatic, right? Which and then a lot of sleeping around, a lot of infidelity, a lot of
because people might have families on land, but then they can't
hook
make
up with
it through the 3 months.
Yeah, something like that.
Huh. Interesting. What else do people ask you? Because
everyone. So the thing that I get, like, people are just always so amazed at, like, they. So I get like 6 months off a year at the moment, right? Not always, like,
but not in 3 months chunks.
Yeah, 3-month chunks. But so people are always really jealous of that. But then I'm like, well, yeah, but I do about 6 months of work in a 3-month period because you don't get weekends off. You don't get. People asking me if I get cabin fever, which I don't know. Like, to be honest, I really enjoy being out on the water, especially so right now, like, let's say you were traveling like across the Atlantic. Honestly, I love Atlantic crossings. It's a 2-week trip. You can't get off the boat, right? But it's just so relaxing.
Do you see anything interesting? Or it's just ocean?
Not usually. It's just ocean, yeah. But what I love to do is, so you work usually like until 5, and then you can go up onto the sun deck and watch the sunset. You can lie there on the deck and like listen to the ocean waves. You can read, just feel the breeze. It's just usually
this is when the boss isn't on board.
Yeah, they'd never be on board for a trip like that. Because
they wouldn't do that for fun.
No, they would
private jet.
We take the boat. We're basically moving the boat from the Mediterranean to the Caribbean so that they can fly to the Caribbean and join us on the boat. It's like a floating hotel, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
They don't care about the actual. I mean, I'm sure there's other boats out there that are like more expedition. Like, it depends on the owner, right? I'm sure there are owners that would want to do that, maybe, but the majority don't. So, do you ever feel the bad weather, or the boat's just way too big? I know nothing about boats, if it's not obvious from this conversation. I have so when we're crossing the Atlantic, I mean, there's teams of meteorologists that they work with, right? So and the radar and all this kind of stuff. So we try to avoid weather if we can. Obviously, if there's a big storm or something coming, we'll like alter course a bit south or a bit north or whatever. And they'll plan it out like that they'll leave before or after a storm. I've only ever been caught in 2 storms on board. Otherwise, you generally try to just avoid it, right? But one trip, it was actually really wild. We were just coming up to Qatar. We were so close that the captain had said that we could unstow everything. Because when you're underway, you have to put everything, like all the delicates and everything down on the ground and like secure it so that they don't fall over or anything like that, right? But he had said, okay, we're so close to our destination. Everything's going to be calm. We can put it out. And then...
Wait, what kind of things? Like vases?
Yeah, vases, picture frames, artwork.
And when you're underway means?
Under means is moving. Oh yeah, sorry. Technical terms. When the boat is moving through the water, like.
And then what? And then it was like bumpy and everything.
And then a storm came out of nowhere. I didn't even notice because I was in the laundry room, and there's no windows down there, and I just heard a bunch of commotion happening on the radio and stuff like this, and yeah, this storm had come out of nowhere, and the boat was like rocking from side to side, and like there was just so much wind and rain, and because the boat was rocking and there was so much wind, a door had actually ended up slamming on one of the deckhand's arms. And yeah, it was really so luckily we were like 1 day away only from our destination, so we were able to get her to the hospital quickly, and it wasn't broken, thank goodness. It was just like crushed. But like, you know, it was just, and like doors were flying open and like things were happening, but like that just came out of nowhere, right? Like there was no predicting it. It was just like I don't know what you call it, like a squall or something. I don't know. Yeah. And one other time in the Bahamas, something like that happened. We were on the dock. Storm came out of absolutely nowhere, and the boat just like starts like going up and down in the water and started rubbing against the side of the dock. And then it kind of scratched the whole side of the boat. But again, like,
were the owners on
that? The owners were there, yeah, actually on that trip, yeah.
But so generally the boat's only moving, like when they're on the boat's not moving some like massive distance. It's just like changing.
Just hopping, island hopping usually, or like just
so
going to the next port.
Vases and stuff can stay out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't usually stow too much when they're on board, but depends on the boat. Some boats you stow, depending on what types of things. So we'll have things like museum gel, which I don't know if you know what that is. It's basically a clear putty that you can put underneath things, and then when you put it down, it just kind of suction cups items to the surface. So we'll use that, but sometimes you'll have a surface that's like hollow, I don't know, and then you can't put anything to secure it without ruining it, so you'd have to just put it on the ground.
What's the craziest thing you've seen that you're like, I didn't know this level of wealth existed? My thing is still, if anyone can't tell, the silk floor. I've never heard of a floor.
Taiping carpets. I just saw an article about this somewhere about it's a huge business, recession-proof business. There was an article about it on Forbes very recently. Taiping is the guy or the business. Silk carpets, yeah. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous because you can't clean it. I'm the head of housekeeping and I'm like supposed to know how to clean every surface. You cannot clean that. You spill something on it, it is ruined. It's done. I can pour sparkling water on it and dab it up, but then that'll take the stain out, but then that'll ruin the finish. It'll ruin the fibers. Or you can just like try to take out as much liquid as possible and it's still ruined and it looks like shit. Like you can't.
If anyone knows how to clean a silk carpet,
send me a message. No, you go to their website. It says you cannot use any cleaning product. You cannot use any liquid. You cannot use anything. Wow. It's the dumbest thing in the entire world. Ugh. But rich people love it. And marble also gets water spots and like so many products. Like they'll have marble countertops in the bathrooms and stuff like that. But like there's so many products and things that leave like acid marks and water stains, and it's just such a dumb material to use. But like it's expensive.
Anything else?
I mean, I think it just, in general, right? Like the amount of money that it takes to pay all of these people a full-time salary, plus the amount of money in fuel, plus the amount of money in insurance and furnishings, and plus all of the clothing that they come aboard. Although I am very surprised that like a lot of billionaires shop at Zara and like Uniqlo and stuff like that, like just like not super expensive brands. But it's just like the combination of all of it. It's just, and then, you know, they're flying private jets to and from the boat, and like, you know, flying bands in, and, you know, drinking $1,000 bottles of wine, and
cool, flying bands to perform on the boat.
That's happened a couple times.
Fun.
Yeah, just it's just so extravagant. Although I will always remember one time, this was actually one of the first families I worked for. I was making $225 a day, and I wanted to make $250, I was making $200 and I wanted $250. And I asked them for a raise because I knew that I was worth more at that point. I was doing a lot of work for them. I had been with them for about a year or and a half or so. And, but they settled on $225. But then I just remember going in their closet at one point when I was like organizing, and she had a vest in there that had a price tag on it for $250 that she's never worn. And I'm like, it's just like that. Like, it would have made such a huge difference for me, right? 200 versus 250, huge difference. But like for her, it's absolutely nothing, and they still said no, right? Which I mean, it's fair enough, it's their money. But I just remember that was always just like, fuck, like it's crazy that like she could spend $250 on a vest and just leave it, and like that's a one full day's work for me.
But that's great. Again, coming back to you being like confident and being a go-getter, that you can advocate for yourself and say, I want to raise.
This is a working. Okay, I will. All right. I can't take full credit for all of my confidence. I have a therapist. She's amazing. She backs me up quite a bit and pushes me sometimes to like ask for things that like advocate for myself and stand up for myself a little bit more, which doesn't come naturally, even though maybe I make it seem really natural. I still question myself a lot, and but it's important. That's why it's important to surround yourself with people that are going to like push for you and support you and like make you a better person. Like, because you are going to be a product of who you surround yourself with, right? So, she, makes me more confident. But obviously, I wasn't seeing her at that point. That was me. I think what that is just recognizing the fact that like men will ask for more than what they're worth, right? I think at that point, that's something I always kind of remember when it comes to money, or like jobs anyway. It's scary to ask for more than what you're worth, but like the worst that they can say is no.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm like the worst that can happen is you get fired for asking.
But you won't. Like, that's the thing. That's a fear that's just like and if they would fire you for that, then like bye. Like that's not somebody that you'd want to work for anyway, because there's clearly something else going on there.
Yeah.
But no, the worst is that wouldn't happen.
The other really important skill, I guess, I think you have is that you aren't that education thing, like learning that you like asking me these finance questions, like you're not afraid, and this is something I need to get better at, and I feel like a lot of people have this, that it's like embarrassing to not know something, or like it's hard to admit, or it's like an ego thing to be like, oh, I actually don't understand that. It's like, oh, I don't want to sound stupid or something. But you're just like, how do I do whatever? Like, how do I invest my money? Which again is so funny that you're asking me.
Well, I thought you were the perfect person to ask.
Yeah, but no, but it's great that it's like, cool. It's just being resourceful. I think it's like, okay, I have this. How do I find it out? Go and ask someone, and then you learn, and then you move forward. Yeah,
and I think sometimes I'm a bit self-conscious about the fact that like I don't want people to think that like I'm not just using you for your investment advice, you know? Like I like hanging out with you besides that, you know, but I want to learn as much as possible from because you know a lot of things that I don't, and then together we can know a lot more, you know, like I know things that you don't know, you know things I don't know, then we can both be better, you know? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yeah.
And same for anyone listening to the podcast. They're learning stuff about silk carpets on a boat. Okay, so Should I ask you the last 3 questions, or do you have anything else you want to ask?
I've got. I'm sure there's a million things, but no, I feel like you can.
I just want to make sure, because I've already asked you so much about the boat, but I just want to make sure that if anyone has burning questions about working on a super yacht, we've covered them.
Yeah. What do I say about working on a super yacht?
I mean, the whole story about you getting caught in. Okay, no, we're not talking about that.
Oh wait, what? Wait, the one, like,
yes. We'll save that for another time.
I mean, it's a really funny, it's a super embarrassing story, but like,
we'll save that for another time. We've gone for 2 hours. People can figure it out themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, do you have anything else? Or I'll ask you the last 3 questions.
Ask me the last 3 questions.
Okay. How do you stay grounded? On the boat and then off the boat?
Good question. I don't know. On the boat, I really try to... It can be really hard to stay grounded or like to stay like centered, I guess, right? Like to like stay to remember what's important and like not get caught up in things, right? When I can, I go outside, honestly, as much as I possibly can. I go outside, I watch the sunset. I stare at the moon. I try to take little breaks like that throughout the day and just like, yeah, definitely make sure I go outside, especially working on the boat, working on the interior. You end up, sometimes you could go days or like a week without ever going outside. So that's super important. If the owners aren't on board, I try to like do a regular like yoga practice or some sort of exercise and things like that. Trying to maintain a little bit of a routine as much as possible. Honestly, it's really hard. How do I say grounded? Like,
no, that's great.
Yeah. I don't know. And then off the boat, like, I think that's something I definitely struggle with just in general because I'm always on the move. I'm always chasing the next thing. I'm always trying to fill my time with different activities and all this kind of stuff. So,
would you ever go back to Nicaragua, by the way, or that's... Did you leave stuff there? Like, how did that...
Yeah, well, because so I had, I had joined a boat for a temporary gig, turned into a permanent gig because of COVID. I couldn't go back to Nicaragua for like 10 months. When I went back, I had to make a decision. I'm like, do I give up my life where I'm like making a bunch of money now and have a good job during COVID where there's no flights into Nicaragua and tourism's tanked? And I made the difficult decision to sell all my stuff. I think I could see myself going back to Nicaragua in the future for sure. To vacation, to live temporarily. It was a very important part of my life and I had an amazing time and I grew so much and learned so much, had amazing experiences, but that time has passed. It's, I don't feel the same sense of community when I go back now to visit, even though I have lots of friends there still. I don't feel connected to them anymore because I'm away from that. And I think that we're just at different places in our lives now where at that moment in time, that was exactly what I needed. And now I'm just different.
Yeah. How long were you there for?
4 years.
Wow. Okay, sorry. Is it doing okay after COVID and like that part of it?
I still have lots of friends who are making it work there for sure. I don't think it's bounced back completely. They definitely struggled a lot. They had COVID canceled all the flights. Then they were hit by 2 back-to-back Category 5 hurricanes within 2 weeks of each other, within 2 kilometers of each other, like unprecedented. And it's definitely struggling, but it's an amazing country and they have a lot to offer. And yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions, I guess, about because there was a civil war back in the 80s, but like things are really good there. Now, the president is a dictator. He's terrible, but the people are amazing and it's a great place to visit.
So I guess that's why you didn't feel too bad about not paying tax if it was just going to end up in...
Exactly. They also that the government invested all this money. When I first got there in 2016, they had just built all of these metal trees. Okay, metal sculpture trees, cartoon character like curly trees with lights that glow that cost hundreds of dollars to like light up, right? And they put them all down like the main streets in the capital city. People were like, there are rolling blackouts every day. Like people go days without power sometimes and they can't afford it and all this kind of stuff. And you're powering these metal trees that are just like absolutely, like, this is such a huge waste of money. That's terrible.
Okay.
Anyways,
we
could talk for hours.
My last question about Nicaragua was, were you ever worried about like healthcare or getting some kind of, like, if something bad happened, were you just like, okay, I can always go back to Canada if it doesn't?
Yeah, so I think I had like travel medical insurance for like the first month I left Canada, and then I decided it was a waste of money because, well, healthcare in Canada is free, right? So I'm used to that. But in Nicaragua, everything is so cheap. I can go see it. There's doctors you can go see for free, or you can go see like a more Western trained doctor and pay, I don't know, like I saw a really good gynecologist there for $50. And I didn't have to wait. I made the appointment, went the next day. Whereas in Canada, if I wanted to see a gynecologist, I would have had to wait 8 months, get a referral, then wait 8 months and like all this kind of stuff. Yeah, antibiotics are like super cheap, everything. So if you needed something, it's there, it's available, it's cheap. And then I kind of decided, I'm like, whether I had insurance or not, I'm exactly the same distance from the hospital. So like if something life-threatening were to happen to me, doesn't matter if I have insurance or not, I'm going to get to the hospital or I'm not, right? And so I'll worry about it then. Like I'll worry about it if I survive.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. So, but I guess staying grounded off, sorry, not to answer it for you, but like you've just been doing so much stuff because
that's honestly been trying to get back to like who I think I am.
Like you've been exercising. Yeah, I told you about class pass. You've been going to classes like all the time. Because I've
done bar 3 days in a row. Yes.
Yeah, because I guess my thing is when I don't have structure, that's when it's like I can't get out of bed. Like I'm just like quickly like lose. It's like what's the point in anything? And I think there are a lot of people have my similar personality type, and I kind of didn't know like if you would come in and it's like, oh, are you just gonna be like in the house all day because you're like, what the fuck am I doing? But you're just like always doing stuff. So do you have to motivate yourself to do it, or it's just?
I mean, yeah. I have I have a huge plan every day about all these things that I want to get done, and then I usually go to bed too late, and then it gets it's hard to wake up in the morning, and then I sleep in, and then I'm like, oh, I just want to stay in bed. Actually, do you know? I've been wasting so much time on dating apps, just like. Swipe. I'll lie in bed and like swipe on dating apps because it's just such a waste of time. And then I'm like, oh, now I missed the class I wanted to do. All right, I'll have to go do the next one. So like, I don't know. It's definitely like, I still have to motivate myself. I get distracted on like my phone and staying up late and, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, I guess I'm motivated in part by the fact that I have a limited amount of time here. Maybe it's different if like, you know, if I didn't have to go back to work. Honestly, it's exhausting though. It's exhausting because I've always, like I said, I've been traveling around for the last 5 years. I haven't spent really much more than a month in any one place. And it's exhausting because you're always like, oh, well, this is my last, like when I'm in Italy, you know, we were in Italy for like a week and I'm like, oh, well, we're only here for a week. So I got to make my most of my time here. Right. Why would I just like go to bed after work or like, you know, do something chill and relax when I'm only here for 1 week, might never come back here. I'm going to go eat out as many restaurants as I can, walk around, see as many things as I can do. And then the trip will get delayed by a day. So we'll be there for another day and I'll be like, okay, well now I have another day to like maximize so then I end up spending the entire week like going out and doing as much things as possible. And I never actually take some time for myself.
Huh. Because the owners aren't on board, you have more time.
Yeah, I mean, this was an example of when the owners weren't on board. We were going to leave, But I mean, it's the same. Like, you know, if I'm traveling on my own time, like I went, you know, to Brazil a couple years ago, and it's like I'm only going to be here. It's like why would I just take it's so hard for me to like come home, just make dinner, watch TV, and go to bed. Like the only time I do that is if I'm like not feeling well or like feeling really tired, which isn't the point.
Yeah.
But there's always I don't know, you want to maximize your time. So I'm here in London trying to like maximizing my time. So, which is fun and great, and I don't regret it. But also, I don't think it's sustainable. Like, I don't like if I wasn't going back to work in a month from now, I wouldn't be able to keep doing this, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question. What book has had the biggest impact on you?
Okay, just because I told you I admire your bookshelf, I don't read that much.
Everyone gets this question. These are the standard questions. The last person I interviewed, former... I think someone said Harry Potter before.
So I actually don't read that much, to be honest. I think if you're asking what my favorite book series was, honestly, I remember there was like a really good series by Margaret Atwood about like called Oryx and Crake.
Canadian as well.
She is also Canadian. Yes, a Canadian book podcast today. Set in a dystopian future where like pharmaceutical companies have taken over the world, so it's like kind of relevant a little bit to this kind of culture climate we're living in today. Very well written book, because the first book is a trilogy. So the first book, you know, does this whole story, and then the second book starts again at the same time period, but from a different character's perspective, and then you can see how the two stories intertwine. So well written. But it has the biggest impact on me, I don't know. Okay, I have a good answer for this. I quit drinking for 6 months last year, like the year before, kind of technically. It was a book called Quitting Like a Woman. What was the tagline? It was Quitting Like a Woman, a woman's guide to like quitting alcohol in a society obsessed with alcohol, or something like that. I can't remember exactly the wording, but that actually had a huge impact on me at the time, because it really opened my eyes to how, you know, alcohol is just such a part of everything that we do.
This is so funny because you're sitting here with a wine.
I am sitting here. Yes. Okay. Well, I've gone back to drinking. Okay.
I'm not judging. I'm just painting a picture for the audience.
Well, so at that point where like I couldn't imagine doing anything without alcohol, right? I couldn't imagine watching a sunset without a beer. I couldn't imagine, I mentioned to my therapist that I wanted to maybe quit drinking, and she's like, all right, well, we'll look at your triggers, we'll figure out what makes you want to drink. And I'm like, yeah, but it's everything. It's like when I'm happy, I want to drink. When I'm sad, I want to drink. When I'm, celebrating, when I'm bored, there's no like trigger. It's just you drink with everything. And I remember going like, there was an exercise event that I was advertised, and it was like, oh, we got tennis coaches and this and oh, don't worry, we got our beer truck in the parking lot. And I'm like, why do you need a beer truck at a sporting event like this? Like, why? We're, as a society, we're so obsessed, and alcohol is the one thing that you don't like, you're considered a quitter, like that there's something wrong with you if you have to quit, where it's like you don't say like, oh, you're a crackhead, like, oh wait, you can't handle your crack, like, yeah. Oh, but you're like, oh, I'm an alcoholic, like, oh, you can't handle your alcohol, like, you see the difference?
But same with if you're not drinking, it's such a big deal. Like,
you have to explain yourself.
It's not like, oh, why aren't you doing mushrooms, or like, why
aren't you doing crack?
Or why aren't you smoking? Like, exactly. Or,
it's the one drug that you have to explain and like justify why you're not drinking, and it's like, that was honestly...
Or even, I think it's even more extreme than like coffee or food. People... it's like...
Yeah.
You can judge... It's like, oh, why aren't you eating chocolate? Like, okay. Or like, why don't you drink coffee, you weirdo? But it's like... but it's like... Yeah, alcohol is... 100%. And it's like, it's a poison.
It is. Yeah, 100%. I know. I
it's
drink...
like, it's a drug. It's like, why do we bully people about.
Exactly. I 100% recommend reading that book. Like, if you aren't already convinced of that, like, if anyone's having any inclination of like that they think they should maybe quit drinking or not, or just interested at all, it will change your mind.
So did you kind of just do that to prove to yourself that you don't have a problem with alcohol, and now you know, like, if you want to stop, you can stop?
No, I mean, it's more complicated than that, but I quit without just trying to see, like, I guess how long I could quit for. Like, I didn't really have any plans to start drinking again. I kind of fell back into it because it was just like I had some family problems, and then it just kind of like was a comforting thing to do. And I felt like at that point, I'm like, oh, well, I can drink now because exactly. I've quit for so long. I can have a couple, and then it just like creeps up a little bit more over time. You just like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, but it is changing massively, because I think I read that it's like 25% of people, like Gen Z or whatever it is, are fully teetotal, or it's like it's like so not cool for young people to not drink. Yeah. And now it's like, you know, everywhere there's non-alcoholic options.
Yeah, well, it's amazing that there's other options out there, because like for a long time there wasn't really, and that's what I mean. Like, you know, you don't go to a bar and you get a burger and soda combo. Like it's always like you go to the restaurant and it's like a burger and beer combo, or like, you know, I don't know, it's like you get your nails done and you get a glass of Prosecco or wine with it. You know, it's like they're never offering you like, it's just it's always being pushed on you, I feel like. And like, yeah, like working at restaurants and stuff, like you're always being pushed to promote alcohol and like sell as many beer buckets as possible, upsell all the whiskey, upsell all the drinks. You know, if somebody orders a Coca-Cola, you're like, fuck, I'm not gonna get a good tip. Like,
yeah. So
it's just pushed as a society, but I'm glad it's changing. And it's good just to kind of open your eyes a little bit to because it's, I think I drink a lot out of habit. It's just habit. Mm. So it's good to like any sort of habit that you have, bad habit. It's good to kind of like recognize and be aware of why you're doing something. But that was good. So yeah, quitting like a woman, making the radical decision to quit drinking in a society obsessed with alcohol. That's the title.
Nice,
good one.
Last question: what 3 words describe the best version of you?
That I think describe me.
Like, it's like the version of you that you most want to be.
Oh, that I'm okay. Gosh, I don't know. Like, I know, like, I think I'm resilient and like for sure. Gosh, that I most want to be. Yeah, I want. Well, it's okay. It's funny because like I always think that like I know I'm described as being confident, but like I would say like I want to be more confident. Like I think that I'm not as confident as I maybe look right on the outside. I think I put on a bit more of a, not a show or but like a face, but like I don't always feel as confident as I come across. So I would say like confident, like, and yeah, resilient, and what else describes me?
I thought you'd say like entrepreneurial or something. Industrious.
Yeah, well, as I was thinking like ambitious, I was trying to think of another word for like just, yeah, that's, I would like creative. Like I would say creative. Maybe cool. Something like that. Sure, yeah. Creative, resilient, and confident.
Great.
Okay, cool.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.